Rise and remove your hats as the Boone County Sheriff's Department presents our nation's colors. Please remain standing as track chaplain Larry Campbell from Kentucky Raceway Ministries offers our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, once again, we thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you have given to us. We thank you for this wonderful evening. Father, we just pray now that you might give us a safe evening, a safe race. And Father, we just once again want to thank you for our country. And Father, we just ask you to continue to bless America. Bless all our troops around the world and here at home, Father, fighting for our freedoms. Father, we just love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome from America's Got Talent and Louisville's own Lincoln Bridge.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets crackling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the and the home of the
The fans are ready. The drivers will climb into their cars. They're going to fire the engines when we come back to Kentucky.
What's up, Kentucky?
Everybody ready, set, go. Rev it up and let's roll. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on a stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Oh, bring it back. Oh,
Welcome to Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series racing from Kentucky. Telecast presented by Toyota. For storylines before we fire the engines, let's go to pit road and Dave Burns.
Rick, while the news that Matt Kenseth won't be in the 20 car next year was shocking, the driver told me moments ago that it was a big relief for him to have the news out. Now he can focus on things like winning at the second time at Kentucky, which would take him to the playoffs, maybe for the last time with Joe Gibbs Racing. Kelly?
After a disappointing Daytona, his 5th DNF of the season, Dale Earnhardt Jr. likely needs a win to get into the playoffs. This team has had to make some big changes and improvements to the 88 car, but now they're hopeful. They have got the speed, handling, and strategy to get to victory lane. He starts 13th, Marty.
Kelly, for the first time since the playoffs have been in NASCAR, Joey Logano finds himself on the outside looking in. I asked him, what do you change to make sure you get into the playoffs? He told me nothing. I'm going to continue to be aggressive and not change a thing with his 22 team. They're out right now in the 22, but are hoping in 8 weeks they're in. Time to get the engines cranked here in Kentucky.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome your Grand Marshal, President and CEO of Advance Auto Parts, Tom Greco.
With a shout out to all our troops, both here and overseas. And on behalf of 74,000 awesome team members from Advance Auto Parts, 1,100 superb independent operators from CarQuest, and all you fans here in Kentucky and across North America, drivers, start your engines!
All right, buddy, fired up when you're ready.
Drivers don't want to be talked about by getting in the wall or getting sideways. That's what happened a year ago. Nobody wants to be unlucky in Kentucky tonight. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. And by Coca-Cola, the official soft drink of NASCAR.
I've always thought that I wanted to win a lot.
Stenhouse is going back to victory lane.
But now that you see that you've done it and that you can do it, man, you're not real satisfied with, 10th.
He's going to get it at the biggest stage. Stenhouse Jr. wins at Daytona.
You want to go out and win the next one.
Kentucky is one of those tracks where I just seem to kind of click right away.
And Keselowski will win.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You pour everything into it, and every week you reset and pour it back in again. And you reset, pour it back in again. You want the best results every week.
Who can get to victory lane tonight? Well, tonight's starting grid brought to you by Toyota. Up front, Kyle Busch. He is looking to make history by winning potentially the Cup and Xfinity Series race on the same day. It has never been done before.
Yeah, in row 2, we have Matt Kenseth and Jamie McMurray. I spoke to Matt Kenseth this week, and he 100% believes he can still win races and championships, even though he won't be at Joe Gibbs Racing next year.
In row 3, we have Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, a third-generation driver. The Blaney family just 3 hours from here in Hartford, Ohio.
Back in row 4, Kevin Harvick and Jimmie Johnson. Between the two, they have 119 Cup Series wins, but they've never won at Kentucky.
Just behind them in row 5, we had Daniel Suarez and Brad Keselowski. Daniel's attempting to be the 4th first-time winner this year.
Row 6, we have Joey Logano and Chase Elliott. Logano told me this weekend that he picked the Kentucky Xfinity race just to try to get more laps on this tricky 1.5-mile racetrack.
Back in row 7, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to start 13th. Now, this was the race a year ago that was the final race he ran in 2016 because of being sidelined from a concussion.
Row 8, we have Kurt Busch and Clint Boyer. Clint Boyer finished 2nd in the last 2 races, but he's on a long winless streak. He's extremely excited about where his team is headed and believes they're close to getting to victory lane.
Row 9, we have Darrell Wallace Jr. and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Stenhouse coming off that big win, but was vocal that their mile-and-a-half program was not good enough for the playoffs. Well, they can go to work on it here tonight.
In row 10, 26-year-old out of Knoxville, Tennessee, Trevor Bayne, and from Roscoe, Illinois, Danica Patrick. We've got the opportunity to talk to the driver who could make history tonight, the guy who's starting up front, Kyle Busch. Let's dial him up.
Hey, Kyle, it's Jeff in the NBCSN booth. Are you ready to talk to us, bud?
Yeah, man, how's it going?
Oh, it's all good up here. Hey, buddy, you got an opportunity today to make history. You can be the first time a person has won an Xfinity race and a Cup race on the same day. What is it going to take to make that happen?
Well, it's going to take a fast car and track position. We've certainly got both of those right now, so we've got to make sure we keep them all through this 400-mile race and put ourselves in the right position at the end and have everything just kind of go our way.
Well, you won that Xfinity race earlier today, and your competition can't hear you, so what did you learn that can help you win tonight?
Come on now, they're all scanning us. We know that. And, I just learned some things about the racetrack and kind of how the line developed and where it all kind of shifted from and where the tire application that was put down earlier today kind of helped out on some things. So it's going to be interesting to see how this race unfolds and how the tires, it looks like the right side's kind of pull the rubber back off the racetrack, actually. So, it's going to be a long race, and that's going to continue to change throughout this nighttime.
Hey, Kyle, we really appreciate you taking some time. Good luck tonight.
You got it. Thanks.
And he's absolutely right. The other teams are listening into his communications. What an amazing accomplishment he has in front of him. Now, it was Indianapolis a year ago when he became the first driver to win both the Xfinity Series and the Cup race from the pole on the same weekend, and he won the Xfinity race today from the pole. He has the possibility to become the first driver ever to win both the Cup Series race and the Xfinity Series race on the same day. We're going to ride along with a few different drivers, including we were just riding along with Kyle Busch thanks to the Toyota in-car camera.
Yeah, Rick, we're also going to ride along with Kevin Harvick with the Busch Light. in-car camera. Big weekend in the Harvick household, though. Delana, his wife's birthday yesterday. His son Keelan's 5th birthday today.
Yeah, we're also lucky enough to ride along with Brad Keselowski with the Ford camera. He's won half of all the Cup races run here at Kentucky.
Well, we'll be on board with Darrell Jr. with the Nationwide onboard camera. He'll start in the 13th position in a special paint scheme, the Nationwide Children's Hospital paint scheme. They have some patient champions here with them today. I was able to meet some of those kids. They are remarkable, Rick.
Yeah, and here we are with Darrell Wallace Jr. with a Coca-Cola cam. And Darrell mentioned earlier this week this possibly could be his last race in this car. Eric Almirola may be healthy enough to return next week. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Multiple cameras all the way around the track, as well as the cameras in the cars. And we will also have aerial coverage that's provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Let's break down Kentucky Speedway. It is a 1.5 mile oval that has been repaved now, 267 laps, just over 400 miles.
Yeah, Rick. And that race gets broken down in 3 stages, a couple 80-lap stages, and then a longer 107-lap stage to the finish.
And always remember that pit road is closed with 2 laps to go at the end of stages 1 and 2.
And this is a very unique racetrack. Turns 1 and 2 has 17 degrees of banking. 3 and 4, though, much flatter with 14 degrees of banking. And Rick, tonight there'll also be a competition caution at lap 30.
All right, guys, let's take a look at tonight's Ram, Guts, and Glory.
Well, the list is long. Winless drivers and big names. You see them down there. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kenseth, Dale Jr., Chase Elliott. The list is long. Who will break through? Who will guarantee a spot in the playoffs tonight?
And who is going to have the guts to try that outside lane? We've seen the rubber be laid down with that machine. Who's going to be the first one to try it?
42 of Kyle Larson did not get out of tech yesterday for their qualifying attempt, and because of that, he will have to start at the back of the field. Well, we saw this before from Chicago a year ago. He doesn't mind starting at the back of the field, and it was learned at a very early age.
My dad built me a little go-kart to play around in when I was 4.
Are you finished? You've been racing for a half hour.
I want to start from the back.
You want to start from the back?
Why?
Because see how good I am passing.
Kyle is the type that needs a rabbit to chase. If he's got somebody in front of him, it makes him even better.
From a young age, Kyle Larson's wanted to start at the back. He gets that opportunity tonight, and no one's told him there's no second groove here at Kentucky. I asked him moments ago, will you use that second groove coming through the field? He said, I'm going to have to use it. It's going to be fun to watch that 42 all evening long, Rick, coming up through the field.
Competition caution at lap 30. We'll see how far Kyle Larson gets from the back of the field as he tries to make his way up to the front. Once again, up front, Kyle Busch trying to make history. Can he become the first ever driver to win an Xfinity Series race and a Cup race on the same day? Great start for Kyle Busch. We mentioned in the track breakdown the differing bankings from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. A very flat 3 and 4. A banked 1 and 2. We see Jamie McMurray already going to the apron, trying to pass as he goes through the first lap and going into 1.
And Denny Hamlin got really loose right in the middle of that trial. Well, you normally don't think about the trial being in a place where your car doesn't handle well, but that car almost spun out. And look how rough this racetrack is on the straights.
Drivers had mentioned there was bumps in 1 and 2. Those now are gone, but there are considerable bumps on the backstretch, and you were out there in the Toyota on-track car, and you were able to experience some of those bumps.
Yeah, it was. Look at Joey Logano down here on the inside. It's really rough on the apron down there underneath Jimmie Johnson making that pass. Denny Hamlin's hung up front in that purple 11 car.
Joey Logano wants to keep him up there because there might be a second groove in 1 and 2, but down here in the flat corner of 3 and 4, you see Denny let the 22 go, trying to get to the bottom, but he couldn't allow him to go. This is a replay, though. Look at Jamie McMurray, takes a hard left, and now watch how rough this is right here. The car jumps 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, that's why the 11 of Denny Hamlin got loose. There was actually contact. See Denny Hamlin trying to hold Jamie McMurray down. Jamie's needing to come back on the racetrack. Look at that bump. There's a huge hole in the bottom of the racetrack right there. Moves Jamie up into Denny Hamlin. I'm not sure Jamie turned up there. I'm not sure the bump just didn't knock him up into him.
I'm not sure his tires were on the ground, Rick.
Shot him up onto the racetrack right into the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
It's hard to turn with no tires on the ground. Marty.
And because of that, Denny Hamlin not very happy. He came on the radio a moment ago and said, in essence, I'm not very happy. And then he came back on the radio and said, you go tell his spotter, talking to Chris Lambert, his spotter, that I'm going to hit him. I'm going to get back to him. I'm going to get to him. Talking about Jamie McMurray. Not very happy that 11 with a 1 right now.
That is something we've seen at this racetrack. We saw it in the truck race. We saw it last year. It is so rough down there on that flat. You can use it. It's not like Daytona where you can't go below that line, but you have to understand when you go down there, it is rough, and it will move you into the car on the outside of you.
Jimmie Johnson in front of Joey Logano. Now Johnson will set his sights on Daniel Suarez, who qualified in front of him. Chase Elliott. 2 drivers there, the 22 and the 24, looking to get wins that count toward the playoffs, fighting for position on the racetrack now. Chase Elliott still looking for his first ever win in the Monster Energy Cup Series. And take a look at the 42, already moving up. Kyle Larson is up to 24th.
Still hasn't ventured up on the outside of the racetrack. I know it's tempting to do that, but right now he's quite a bit quicker than these cars, and he doesn't need to do that. He can just outrun them by running the bottom groove.
Here again, the close proximities of Chase Elliott just behind Joey Logano. And already we're seeing some smoke out of the 13. That looks like tire rub on the left front for Ty Dillon in that 13.
That's a heavy amount of smoke. They're going to have to really pay attention to that. You know, you can rub pretty severely on the actual tread of the tire. While there aren't treads like your street car tire, but where the treads would be, very durable, very thick. But if you get close to the sidewall, very thin, it can easily create a flat tire.
Again, these two a car length apart between Logano and Chase Elliott. And the smoke has dissipated now from the 13 of Ty Dillon.
That could be a good sign or a bad sign, Rick. It either has fixed itself or perhaps has rubbed its way through the tire and there's not much left.
Good run by Chase Elliott, closing in on Joey Logano. Still out front with almost a 1-second lead. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Jamie McMurray, Kevin Harvick, as we see Daniel Suarez going by Blaney.
And you see what happens when you get out of that groove right now. Blaney was in the 3rd groove and he lost so much momentum. He had to come out of the throttle, and Suarez was there to take advantage of it.
Daniel Suarez, the 25-year-old out of Monterrey, Mexico. Xfinity Series champion a year ago, and now has made the move into the Monster Energy Cup Series with the retirement of Carl Edwards. Currently running in the 6th position. Another driver looking for their first win in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Ryan Blaney just behind him got his first win already in 2017. Kelly.
Martin Truex Jr. qualified 2nd. That's where he runs now. He's been dominant at these 1.5-mile tracks this year. Top 10s at all 5, including a pair of wins. No reason to think it could be any different tonight. As crew chief Cole Pern told me he felt like they had the car to beat a year ago. Obviously fast again tonight, but he said, look, the key tonight, restarts, pit stops, and strategy. Look for them to go not just for the race win, but more of those stage wins, Dave.
Jamie McMurray maintaining that 3rd position since his bold move down to the apron. Did just report a lap ago that he thinks he has some sort of a vibration. He did not get more specific than that, but he did say it was when the car is under compression entering the corner.
Because of all of the rain from last night, again, there will be a competition caution at lap 30. About halfway to that, Kyle Busch has been out front all 12 laps. Welcome back to Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky. It's the Quaker State 400. Still out front, Kyle Busch. He's led 18 laps now. You can catch all the action. NASCAR on NBC with the NBC Sports app. Get closer with alternate camera angles, driver stats, and track information. This track has taken a little bit of a facelift, even from the Xfinity Series race earlier. Rutledge.
Yeah, that's right, Rick. This is Hank. He's driving the Tire Dragon. They had this thing out here at 4 a.m. this morning to put down a lot of laps, a lot of rubber to get down, but they also ran it again after the Xfinity race. You can see what the tires look like when they're first on. This is the 5th set they've had on today. But then, Steve, you can see what these tires look like when they're done, when they're corded. I know you as a crew chief have seen those tires before.
Absolutely, Rudd. I mean, basically what you see right there are the white fabric underneath the rubber. And as a race car driver, you don't want to see that, Jeff, because that means you're riding literally on fabric. But as a Tire Dragon operator, that's perfect, because you have now applied basically an entire tire worth of rubber onto the racing surface. And we looked at it, Jeff. The track is much blacker. The groove is much wider. So that work they did between the Xfinity race and the Cup race definitely showing up.
Yeah, it's definitely much darker. No one's ventured there yet, but the track's done all they can to try to give the drivers an opportunity to have 2 grooves.
Dave Burns.
Rick, you could run the Tire Dragon for a year and it wouldn't help Ty Dillon. Right now he's got no brakes. On lap 14, he radioed the crew, "I'm about to crash. I am coming in." No fluid, according to the driver, and no brake pedal at all.
That's very unfortunate this early in the race to have a mechanical problem, but it's nothing you can do as a driver. You have to pit and get that fixed.
You see a nice move here by Erik Jones. And this is what we saw really all last year and earlier today in the other race of the Xfinity race. The passing zone is kind of off turn 4. That flat corner gives you the opportunity to exit a little bit lower, initiate the pass, then you come down here in 1 and 2 and kind of complete the pass.
The gap between Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. just over a second. Then it's 5 seconds back to Jamie McMurray, who had the wild ride at the start of this race, going down to the apron to make the pass and bumping the 11 of Denny Hamlin. While doing that, Denny Hamlin has then said, guess what? When I catch you, I will repay you. So we'll keep our eye on that. Kevin Harvick running 4th, Kenseth the 5th. Daniel Suarez holding on to 6th, Jimmie Johnson back in 7th. Again, Harvick and Johnson, 2 drivers that have won a lot of races, and yet they've never won here at this racetrack.
As we ride along with Brad Keselowski, the start of this race has not gone the way he wanted. He started 10th, running 13th now. He's won half the races here, so he has high expectations, but what a great opportunity to ride around with one of the best drivers. Listen to his throttle, listen to how he drives turns 3 and 4, completely different than 1 and 2. He's entering turn 3 right now. You heard how early he lifted getting into turn 3. He was still on the straightaway, hadn't really even started to turn yet. Now listen to how he drives into turn 1. Turn 3 once again, just so flat, still on the straight, has to lift, get the car turned, get it to the bottom, start accelerating. Went down to 148 miles an hour in the center of the corner. Now you've got this long front straightaway. You build a lot of speed. As 1.5 miles go, it's not a very long front straightaway, but it is a long straightaway where you can build a lot of speed.
And now here comes the 77 of Erik Jones to the inside of the 11 of Denny Hamlin. 2 Toyotas fighting for position. Denny Hamlin has the spot. Erik Jones trying to take it away from him. That's a fight for the 11th position. Joey Logano just in front of them. Not too far behind them in 20th is Kyle Larson. And remember, he started 40th on the field. So he has already passed 20 cars and has moved now. Well, he's still holding on to that 20th spot. Now he's made his way by Clint Boyer into 19th.
Just took that spot, Rick. And what we noticed early in the run here for Kyle Larson, as you watch him on the right side of the screen, is that he was one of the top 5 fastest cars. Since then, lap times have fallen off a little bit for the 42. Remember, they started at the rear of the field at Texas earlier this year, drove all the way up to 2nd place. But when you don't qualify, you get the last pit stall selection. that might be a factor today. He has to pit between two very good cars, which you don't want to do when you're running up front between Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott. So we'll see if that plays a factor for this 42. Battle for the lead, Rick.
Yes, it's closed up now. It was over a second. But the 18 of Kyle Busch now under a half a second in front of the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And look at the run Martin Truex Jr. has through the turn. All the way to the back bumper of Kyle Busch. 3 wide down the backstretch. Kyle Busch able to stay out in front. A little wiggle there, though, as he goes through 3 and 4. Martin Truex Jr. so good at stage racing. Coming up on the competition caution. Side by side for the lead. You want to be out front. When the caution comes out, you'll have lane choice on the restart.
This gives a little bit of hope that the high groove is going to work. Kyle Busch has been able to hold him back. I think Martin has a little bit quicker car, keeps getting underneath him, but Kyle Busch is able to keep his momentum rolling that top groove.
Still out in front of Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch looking back from the Toyota in-car camera.
The 78 just gets such a good acceleration off from the corner.
Yellow.
As now the comp caution's out here at lap 30.
Now the question is, the stage goes until lap 80. So how many people will come in on the competition caution, and how many will gamble and stay out trying to potentially get stage points?
Well, no one can run to lap 80 on the tank of fuel they started with, Rick. So I expect to see all of the leaders, really every car on the racetrack, come to pit road. They have to put fuel in the car to get to the end of the stage. So this comp caution really made the strategy of stage 1 pretty straightforward. Come to pit road right now, get fuel. Really the only question is 30 laps on your tires. Who's going to think 4 tires may be more important than 2? I think that's the question we're going to have to try to get answered.
Who will try to have the fastest stop to get that track position off of pit road by doing just a 2-tire stop as opposed to a 4-tire stop.
I think that if you have track position, I think you're going to want to keep it. I think you're going to want to do 2 tires. Guys that are a little bit further back, they'll probably be doing 4, but I think if I'm Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., I think I'm doing 2 right here.
So Jamie McMurray, who started 4th, moved up to 3rd. Kevin Harvick's back in the 4th spot.
You know, I said that, but then if you think about what happened in the Xfinity race, Ryan Blaney put tires on late in that race, and he made a huge charge with 4 tires.
And they're on pit road. Headed to you, Dave.
Jamie McMurray in 3rd place told his crew that his car is really loose, and it just keeps getting looser. That makes it spin out when he tries to turn the wheel just a bit. 2 right side tires from Goodyear and Sunoco fuel in the car. Kelly?
Martin Truex Jr. said he was free getting into 3, but that was consistent. It was that he was getting looser and looser into 1 and 2. So crew chief Cole Pern said they would help him out here. It looks like a 2-tire call for the 78, Marty.
Kyle Busch said his car fired off great, got a little free in the middle of the run, then too tight at the end. No changes, though. You see the 2 Goodyear tires. He will easily win the race off pit road over Martin Truex Jr., Rick.
Race off pit road brought to you by Kroger Click List. Top 3 holding their spots. 2 tire stops. Welcome back to Kentucky. I want to go to the Toyota Camry on-track car, which is sitting in victory lane right now, and Rutledge Wood is down there.
Thanks, Rick. You know, a lot of people this week have been talking about the splitter. We know that's this part right here on the front of the car. The real design is as the air goes by, so to help sort of suck the car down and help create downforce. And Steve, it seems like the issue has not been the actual spoiler that we can see, this beginning part, but the several inches of material back behind this that we can't see. Seems to be some gray areas. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on there.
Absolutely, Rutledge. This splitter has been a hot topic. Basically, the rule hasn't changed. The rule has read the same, but teams thought they were working within the rule, putting some shape to it, basically steering that air where they want underneath the car, making more downforce. So NASCAR came out and said, hey guys, that's enough. We're going to start inspecting this a little differently. We want to see flat, perfectly planed splitters, Marty, and that seems to be, in Toyota's opinion, an advantage for them.
Well, I talked to Mike Wheeler, the crew chief for Denny Hamlin, and he felt like they were a little behind in that game. The other teams were kind of ahead of them earlier in the year, so they felt like when NASCAR decided to enforce that rule a little more strictly, if you will, that it would be an advantage for the Toyotas. He predicted that like 2 weeks ago, and it's coming true so far this weekend. Toyota's very strong here so far this weekend in Kentucky.
Rick, the only problem I have with that, it's a great theory, but that 78 Truex, he's a Toyota, and he's been fast all year. Yep. So without a doubt, it seemed to have helped the 18, the 78. I'm not sure their story.
We'll see how fast they are now as they approach the Geico restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Kyle with another great restart, able to get out front. How about the one of Jamie McMurray? He made the move around the 78, and McMurray has moved up now to second.
Yeah, we've been talking so much about Jamie McMurray's teammate Kyle Larson, who had to start in the back just because he's had such a great season. But this one of Jamie McMurray has also showed some speed this year, just trying to capitalize, though, and get that win. Looking good so far today.
A couple veterans there side by side. Kevin Harvick is on the inside, Matt Kenseth on the outside as we ride along with Harvick. Now Kenseth on the outside of the 48. As Jimmie Johnson continuing to try to move forward. Eric Jones behind them. Chase Elliott has a bumper, being tagged by the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
Look at this mess.
Clint Boyer in the 14 on the inside of Ryan Blaney in the 21 on the outside. Jeff fighting for that 10th spot.
Jeff, it almost reminds me of a short track like a Martinsville. When you get a driver out of the preferred lane like they have Ryan Blaney right now, the drivers behind them almost overdrive corner entry to continue to fill that slot. They know if they keep Ryan Blaney high, as you see Ryan squeeze down, he knows he needs the bottom of the racetrack, but the 5 there, that bright white and green car of Casey Kane, trying to hold him up, that's going to cost him a spot as Kyle Larson takes him 3 wide.
Casey just could not keep the speed. He got a little bit tight behind the 21, wasn't able to hold the bottom. Now Blaney with a strong drive into the corner, almost pulled the 42 around with him.
And the 42 of Kyle Larson has been on the move. Remember, he started 40th because of no qualifying. Now he's up to 12th.
Now they had the 88 stuck on the outside. Remember, Dale Jr. very disappointed with his car for most of practice, Rick, but he told us after qualifying they found some things just in the last 10 or 15 minutes he hoped would make a difference today.
But he made that move work. Casey Kane was having problems on the bottom, and once again, the lap before he couldn't keep speed. He didn't do it again, and Jr. was able to clear him.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 17. Coming off of the big win, his second career win at Daytona. He's currently running 21st.
Bubba Wallace there in the 43 car. Good start of the race.
And again, Bubba Wallace, Darrell Wallace Jr. subbing for Eric Almirola after he had a compression fracture in his back. And so he is hoping to be back soon. This potentially could be the last run for Darrell Wallace Jr. in the 43.
So important for a young driver like Darrell Wallace in these conditions to be reminded what the goal is. You're a rookie driver, limited experience, make laps, don't get yourself in trouble. Adverse conditions, this is an opportunity to have a good race because others are going to have problems. You be clean, be smooth, you can come out of here with a good finish.
Logano right in the tire tracks of Darrell Wallace Jr.
About Logano, this since Richmond, this car just has not shown the speed that we expect. He won Richmond, had trouble in tech. The win was encumbered, meaning he cannot use it to get into the playoffs. And here he is back in the pack. You just don't expect to see Joey Logano running 19th.
Well, Jeff, we talked about this. You know, that win at Richmond, he had to start last. They stormed through the field. They win that race, only to find out there's a big emotional letdown during the week. And, you know, you would like to think it's just, you know, car parts, shocks, and springs that make these cars go around, but it isn't. There are people involved. These are not video games. There are human beings driving it. There are human beings working on it. That emotional toll of losing that win, losing that guaranteed spot, has definitely seemed to affect the 22.
And Steve, we've certainly talked about since that penalty, they've only had one top 10 and just 2 top 20 finishes on the 22. I asked Todd Gordon about it earlier today. He said, listen, I know everybody wants to point to that and say, hey, they took something away from them at Richmond. He said, I can promise you that's not the case. He said right after that, NASCAR started more strictly enforcing some rear templates, took away rear downforce from everybody in the entire field, and also the heat started hitting the racetracks. We just don't have our aero balance right, but it is easy, Jeff, isn't it, to point to that, to say, hey, listen, after that penalty, this 22 team has certainly been sideways. And again, for the first time ever in the playoff system, they find themselves outside of the playoffs right now.
Well, Marty, we know that Joey Logano and that team are capable of running in the front and contending for championships, but we just haven't seen it since Richmond, so it's hard not to point to that. Remember, he's 3 points out of the playoffs. He thought he was in the playoffs. This team thought they were moving on, having a chance to win a championship. They're fighting for their lives at the moment. So I understand what they're saying, but it's hard not to imagine it didn't have something to do with it.
Well, I'll go one step farther to say Brad Keselowski, who's won 2 races this year, those both were before Richmond. So his teammate has run okay with a second at Richmond, a second at Kansas, but even the 2-car hasn't found victory lane since that penalty.
2-car usually very good here at Kentucky, has already won 3 times at this racetrack, including the reconfiguration from a year ago, as Kyle Busch continues to lead, has still a 1-second lead over Martin Truex Jr., who has made it back up to second.
Well, and Rick, this is not the leader that Joey Logano wants to see. We talk about the playoffs. Well, Kyle Busch leading the race without a win. A win here would be huge. Martin Truex, you mentioned, got the second, but right behind Martin Truex is Jamie McMurray, another driver without a win.
Kyle Busch 300 miles earlier in the Xfinity Series race, now looking to lead the 400 miles in the Monster Energy Cup Series race. You're watching Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Racing. That's telecast presented by Toyota. NASCAR Drive. It's NASCAR.com's live race day companion. Now available on your mobile device. Select your favorite camera angle or driver with an in-car video. You can even watch multiple angles at once. Never miss a lap with NASCAR Drive. Visit NASCAR.com/drive from your PC, tablet, or mobile device. Completed 54 laps. Let's go through the field, brought to you by Carl's Jr. We start with Marty.
Kyle Busch hanging on to that lead right now, and he has a special weapon on top of the pit box this evening. Adam Stevens back after a 4-race suspension. He grew a beard during that 4-race suspension, but also, maybe more importantly, he also has Jake Seminara, his rear tire changer and his rear tire carrier. Kenny Barber back on pit road this weekend for the first time in 4 weeks. They told me that's real speed. Those guys were very good on pit road, Kelly.
Not only does Martin Truex Jr. have 2 race wins, he has 11 stage wins, far more than anyone else. Cole Pern, the crew chief, told me there's no strategy to it. It comes down to qualifying well, starting up front. That usually bodes well. Rick?
And Jamie McMurray running in the 3rd spot. We have spoken quite a bit about Jamie McMurray's teammate in Kyle Larson, as Kyle Larson has made his way from all the way at the back up to 8th. So Kyle Larson continuing to march toward the front, but Jamie McMurray looking very strong, running in that 3rd position now. So we see the 42. The top 2, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., the only 2 that have been out front today, and Martin Truex Jr. has only led 1 lap. It was on lap 29. But Kyle Busch has been out front for the other 55 laps.
You can see where Martin Truex's strength is as he exited turn 4, how much lower he was able to keep the car, and that closed the gap about 4 car lengths on him. See, he touched the apron right there. See the car wiggle a little bit. As soon as he got on that yellow line, it wiggled. That's getting the left sides on that flat part of the racetrack. But watch the 78. He's been doing that. See right there, right on the entrance to 3, he's been just touching that yellow line, and it seems to help him make the radius of the corner in 3 and 4 work. It seems like he tried to do it in 1 and 2, and it didn't work as well.
Now that the 18 has reached lapped cars, making it a little bit more difficult for him to have his line or do the line that he wants to use around this racetrack.
Yeah, Kyle Busch is struggling right now. You see his car will really get up the racetrack. Let's see if Martin can take advantage of it.
And now the 42 of Kyle Larson trying to go by Jimmie Johnson. He'll make that pass. And Kyle Larson already up to 6th. The 2-tire, 4-tire change. We saw Larson take 4 tires. It's worked for him. He's made his way up to 6th. A lot of drivers that have taken 2 tires are losing the battle to those that have taken 4. Clint Boyer took 4 tires. He's up to 11th. The gap staying a little over 1/10 of a second between Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah, Rick, I think the 78 has a better race car. He's just almost patiently waiting for Kyle to either make a mistake or just leave the door open a little bit. You see the 78 continues to try to touch that yellow line. As you mentioned, Jeff, every time he does, the car gets a little upset. It helps him in the flatter corner, but definitely doesn't agree with it in 1 and 2.
Yeah, 2 different approaches getting to turn 3. You see the 18 of Kyle Busch, he makes a wider entrance. The 78, he turns a little bit earlier and gets to that yellow line just a touch quicker. 78, he's kind of just showing Kyle Busch, hey, I want this spot.
Look to the inside for maybe a little clean air as they're entering the turn.
This is an opportunity right now. The 18 has got dirty air in front of him. Martin not able to take advantage of it.
Kyle moves to the inside. He'll get by Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher now a lap down. 24 cars on the lead lap. The next car that Kyle Busch will try to put a lap down will be the 10 of Danica Patrick.
They're lapping these cars so quickly that it's going to come into play at some point. Kyle Busch could catch a lap car at the wrong place and Martin be able to take advantage of it. I think not only for this part of the race, but look at this later. Watch how the lap cars can impact who can win this race.
The gap stays at about 0.2 of a second. As you see the speed when they enter turn 1, around 195 miles an hour, and what an entry we saw out of Martin Truex Jr. there. Entering turn 1, he shot up the racetrack, and now they're still working the bottom in 3 and 4. "17 laps to go in stage 1.
And Rick, you have to start wondering to yourself, is Kyle Busch defending this so diligently because of the stage points coming up? 16 to go to the end of stage 1. If this was just a straight 400-mile race, Jeff, will he have just pulled over and said, you know, 78, you're faster, you go ahead? But in today's NASCAR, with these stages, with these playoff points available, he has to continue to fight. He, A, needs the points himself, but B, definitely doesn't want the 78 to get any more playoff points.
78 has so many playoff points that he has such an advantage now. You got to try to take that away in some form or fashion. The only way to do that is keep him from winning.
Kyle Larson trying to break into the top 5 now. On the right side of your screen, Matt Kenseth has that position. Larson all over his back bumper.
And guys, on this restart, Kyle Larson restarted 17th. He quickly gained 6 spots, kind of settled out there, and he's been picking everybody off slowly but surely since then, and they're running on the bottom of the racetrack. He told me, I think the key is we're going to run the bottom. I kind of questioned that. I said, are you sure you want to run the bottom? You're always known to go to the top. He said, nope. He said, that's what got us to the front at Texas. We reminded you earlier, he started the rear of the field at Texas, finished second that night, felt like he should have won that race. He said, the key, we were better on the bottom than anyone, and there he goes, looking underneath Matt Kenseth as well.
He's going to take the 5th spot away from Kenseth. Martin Truex Jr. still chasing after Kyle Busch as we're closing in on the end of stage 1. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Ford. We go further so you can. And by Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. We're fairly confident that the 78 and that team knew we went to commercial break because it looked as though it was going to be a great battle for quite some time with Kyle Busch out in front. The second that we went to commercial, the the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. decided it's time to go.
Yeah, he just had such a run. Just kept putting pressure on Kyle, kept putting on him. We could see Kyle's car start to move around a little bit, just wasn't making the grip. And we got a report from Marty that Kyle believes the 78 car's front end just works better. The car turns better. That's where Kyle feels like they need to work to try to improve when they come down for this pit stop.
And so after Truex got out in front of Kyle Busch, now he has a 1.5 second lead over Busch. Larson has made his way all the way up to the 4th position. He's behind his teammate Jamie McMurray. Kyle Larson really has been the strongest car all day. We'll see if he'll have anything for McMurray, Kyle Busch, or Martin Truex Jr.
And this is the time in the race where if you are Martin Truex Jr., it's important that your team is letting you know how good Kyle Larson looks, because he's passed everyone in front of him. He's now the leader, so he needs to start judging his race car thinking the 42's coming. So if you have a little issue here, a little issue here, you might have to be a little more vocal about it, Jeff. The crew chief needs to say, listen, I know you think you're better than the 18, but you know, this red and white 42 has come all the way from the back of the field, and he's, as you mentioned, looking to pass his teammate for 3rd, Rick.
As the laps wind down, just under 5 to go in stage 1. We mentioned the fuel situation. They cannot make it a full stage on fuel, so we know that they'll want to come back down to pit road once pit road is opened again.
And Rick, they also can't play any of those tricks. We saw teams at Pocono and other longer racetracks pit, even at Daytona last week, right before the stage ends, to try to flip some crazy strategy. Here at Kentucky, it's very simple. When you come to pit road, you lose a lap. The lap time just isn't long enough, so there's no creativity a crew chief can have. You just have to work on your race car, get better. You have 4 more laps. Talk to your driver, as Kyle Larson proves that he has a great race car.
He looks to the inside, and he'll take 3rd away from his teammate. So Kyle Larson up to 3rd. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, 1, 2, 3. Jamie McMurray now 4th. Kevin Harvick is 5th. What a yeoman's effort this 42 team and Kyle Larson have already done as we're closing in on the end of stage 1. Pit road is closed now with 2 laps to go in stage 1. Race leader Martin Truex Jr. just over a 2nd lead over Kyle Busch. 11 stage wins this season. Steve, you guys mentioned it. A lot of drivers are looking to figure out how they can slow him down, stop him from winning all the stages. He leads all the drivers, but right now he has been the dominant car, the dominant driver in stage racing.
Well, this has a fast race car, but it also starts on Friday. They qualify well. While they weren't on the pole here, the 18 of Kyle Busch beat them for the pole. They still qualified on the front row. So they're right there, right up front, and they have continued to take advantage of that.
Coming out of turn number 4.
This season, stage winner, MTJ.
There you go. MTJ. Stage winner for stage 1 from Kentucky.
And Kevin Harvick got by Jamie McMurray down the back straightaway to get 4th position.
Harvick, McMurray, top 5. What a run for Martin Truex Jr. 12 times already in 2017 he has won the stage.
Bring it back.
Are headed down pit road. Let's go to Kelly Stavis.
Martin Truex Jr., after his 12th stage win of the year, will bring it down to pit road. Needless to say, he's been pretty happy with the car. The only thing I've heard him say was that his brakes felt a little bit different last time he came down to pit road. Said he locked them up a little bit more than he expected. You see the team will go to work on the right side of the car there. We haven't heard yet if this is going to be a 2 or 4, and it will be a 4-tire stop, Marty.
Rear of the field to third in 74 laps for Kyle Larson tonight. Said he's a little too tight on the throttle. He'll have to dance around Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott here on pit road. Leading with those guys in front of the pit road, Kyle Busch said when he gets the front end of the car to work, it steps out laterally. He said he wanted a subtle air pressure adjustment. Truex holds serve on pit road, Rick.
Yeah, the race off pit road brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2. Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch holding their positions. Kevin Harvick gained one on pit road. It's time now for tonight's Subway Fresh Take. Let's talk to the driver of the 78, the winner of stage 1.
How about you, Martin? You got us?
Yeah, I got you, Jeff.
Well, I don't know if you're surprised or not. We're not surprised that you won another stage, but Kyle Larson's been coming quickly behind you. As the team told you where you are on speed compared to him?
No, I really have no idea. Running my own race here, so first for a Toyota's been good. And, you know, the repay is tricky, man. This thing's it's been tricky, so just trying to pay attention to what we're doing. I could care less where the 42's at.
So you talk about the track being tricky. Where is the most difficult part on the racetrack right now?
Both ends really are pretty tricky. The tire rubber is laying in the track real funny on long runs, and it's getting real bad slippery spots in it, so it's just kind of inconsistent. Cars kind of all over the place, so just trying to manage all that stuff, but everything's going good. Guys doing a good job. Car feels pretty close, so we'll keep digging here.
Martin, thank you and your team for sharing some time with us. Good luck, bud.
Yeah, man, thank you.
We aren't surprised that Martin Truex Jr. was able to win that stage, and we're also not surprised Denny Hamlin was speeding on pit road. Get NASCAR coverage when you're on the go with NASCAR Mobile. The official app of NASCAR puts race coverage, live in-car camera right at your fingertips. You can even listen to drivers and teams discuss race strategy. Download for free at NASCAR.com/mobile. Marty.
Well, Rick, you see Kyle Larson dropping to the back of the field again. Remember, it took him 74 laps to get to the rear of the field. From the rear of the field to third, he's going to have to do it again. Speeding on pit road in section 12. That's leaving his pit stall. He was in a furious race with Kevin Harvick and guys around him. So we talked about him having to pit around other good cars. They all kind of left together. So speeding on pit road, section 12 for Kyle Larson. We get to watch him do it again.
And again, there are more speeding zones or loops on pit road than there were in 2016 when they were last here.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Rick, NASCAR controls speeding by time over distance. There are lines under pit road that electronically pick up the car. So as you see, as Kyle Larson leaves pit road next to the 4 of Kevin Harvick, you know, to the naked eye, you can't tell. Kevin Harvick could have been 1/100th of a mile an hour to the good. We don't know that. It only takes, if you pop up red, that means you were too fast. It doesn't matter if it's 100th of a mile an hour or 5 miles an hour. Over is over. Kevin Harvick obviously was under. The 42 of Kyle Larson was over, as well as the 11 of Denny Hamlin.
We've seen him do it before. Kyle Larson from the back of the field toward the front. He got all the way up to third. We'll see if he can do it again as we get ready to start stage 2. The field now approaching the Geico restart zone. Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, inside, outside. Green flag back in the air. They stay side by side, and now the advantage goes to Kyle Busch on the outside. He made that outside line work. Oh, around goes the 2. Into the wall. The 14 of Clint Boyer also up. The 48 of Jimmie Johnson slams the wall hard.
Caution is out.
How bad is it, brother? Yeah, it's real bad. Missed the 2 when you were spinning.
Hard hit by Jimmie Johnson.
Something broke, and then I hammered the fence.
Talk about restarts every week, Steve. So people are digging, trying to make something happen. It's the easiest time to pass, but you have to be aggressive to make it happen. You see Brad Keselowski underneath Clint Boyer just got loose. Could not hold it. Air got pulled off the car. Same thing we saw last year. Entering turn 3 side by side is very difficult.
And now we're on board with Brad Keselowski. You see he enters the corner.
Outside, tight right, tight right.
And it's just that flat corner, no grip. We talked about it. It was really a virtual replay to multiple wrecks we saw last year.
Caution is out.
That inside car just gets down in there. And with the car on the outside, it takes away the side force, takes away some of the down force. Around he goes. Jimmie Johnson, nowhere to go. You heard him say right here, he hit the 2, then something broke. He's into the wall.
Hard hit for the 2 and the 48. The 33-year-old out of Rochester Hills, Michigan, Brad Keselowski. A lot of damage. And welcome back to Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky. Tonight's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods, giving us a great vantage point of the bumping and banging that's been taking place on the track. And Ryan Blaney has been moving forward. He's currently 10th. Rutt.
You know, Rick, tonight is the Lou Blaney Memorial up at Sharon Speedway in Ohio. He's doing double duty, but that's a guy who wishes he could run triple duty. That, of course, that race, a memorial race for his grandfather, who really got his dad and his uncle into racing, and he says that's the reason he's here. But this guy, we are seeing so many different sides of him and a real love and connection with the race fans out here. This guy is definitely somebody to watch tonight, especially if he can get that in victory lane. For Lou, I think it'd be a big thing. And we see him there in Daytona last week. He had a great time with the fans. He is very quickly becoming the man of the people out here, guys.
He did have fun, and he did a cannonball with his sunglasses on.
Well, he learned last year how tricky turn 3 is when he and Chase Elliott got together really in the same manner of what we just saw. So we talked at the top of the show, Jeff, how treacherous 3 and 4 is. We talked to Martin Truex Jr. He really said both ends of the racetrack were very tricky. But now we have seen 3 and 4 really knock out 2 champions in Jimmie Johnson and Brad Keselowski. And I have a sneaky suspicion with 176 to go, that's not going to be the last accident we see down at this end of the racetrack.
It's already the toughest corner because it's so flat. And then when you have a car on the outside of you, it's so easy to get spun around and you just take the air off that car. So that compounds the issue.
We had mentioned that the second groove might be the tough one to see come in, but it's been the car that was on the inside that has caused the wreck. As we get ready for the restart, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Busch has chosen the outside line. Martin Truex Jr. on the inside as they come to the restart zone. Top 2 separating themselves. Now it's Kevin Harvick in front of Matt Kenseth. Here comes the one of Jamie McMurray as he'll challenge Kenseth for the position. Kenseth had a good run off of turn 4, and around goes the 6. And Kasey Kahne also involved. Kasey Kahne in the 5 into the wall. And the 4th caution has come out. They were running 11th and 12th.
The damage on Kahne's car looks very similar to
We're
the
done.
same
Take it to the
damage
garage if,
we
you
saw
can
with
drive it
Jimmie
back.
Johnson.
Once again, you heard it. We're done. If you can drive it back to the garage.
Restarts are so important. You just have to go. Tricky racetrack. Really, it's still a 1 groove.
Look again at they're racing for 11th and 12th.
It looks to me that the 6 was already probably on the middle of the racetrack, not even really on the high line on the straightaway. The 5 of Kasey Kahne was looking underneath them. The 5, basically, you said, forced the issue. He thought he was inside the 6. He was just barely inside the bumper cover. The 6 of Trevor Bayne was committing to the bottom of the racetrack. They make contact. It ends up costing both drivers a race.
It's just a fight for the bottom. You know, if we were at Michigan, Trevor Bayne wouldn't care if Kasey was underneath him. He'd just run the middle of the racetrack. But here you have to be on the bottom. So it's a fight for the bottom.
Kasey Kahne's going to take the 5 back into the garage. And as we've mentioned, Matt Kenseth talking about not being back at Joe Gibbs Racing. Kasey Kahne, job could be in jeopardy at Hendrick Motorsports. The 6 of Trevor Bayne trying to work on that car to get it back out on the track. there is nothing like attending a NASCAR race. This season has been full of some of the most intense side-by-side racing in years, and even more dramatic moments than ever before. Visit NASCAR.com/tickets to purchase tickets and make new NASCAR memories at an upcoming race near you. A couple cars coming to pit road or thinking about it. Let's go to Marty.
One car that did not, Kyle Busch, the leader, decided to stay out. They're going to be about 3 to 4 laps short here for the leaders who did not pit this last time. Kyle Larson, remember that speeding penalty on pit road? Well, he's already in the back. They came back down and topped off. So now Kyle Larson in the 42 can make it to the end of the stage. So interesting fuel plays here for drivers who cannot make it, the drivers up front, and some drivers in the back who can make it. Kelly?
Strategy call for the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. as well. They came down for a fuel-only stop, and Greg Ives now telling Dale that they can go to lap 165 from here. So they're looking to pick up some stage points when this one ends.
I think that's really what we saw right there, Rick, is separation of priorities on the racetrack. Some teams are purely looking for the end of stage 2. So they're going to try to come get fuel now, as Kelly reported. Greg Ives thinks he can, or doesn't think, he knows he can run to the end of stage 2. The leaders in front, as you heard Marty say, they're close. They're going to have to get some more yellows, so it's what your priority is. Those front cars have seen all these accidents on the restarts, Jeff. I'm sure those crew chiefs are thinking, let's stay up front and try to stay out of trouble.
Driver of the 48, Jimmie Johnson, checked and released from the infield care center, and Dave is with him.
So, Jimmy, that looked like right place, wrong time.
Correct. It's just icy on the restarts, but a strong Lowe's Chevrolet. Hate it for the guys that we didn't get a better finish. The car felt great. I feel like we're probably in position for a good top 5 night with all things considered. But the 2 car got into the corner and he was sideways before he got there. I felt like the car on the outside of him left him some room. And then talking to Brad inside, he said it was just sideways before he ever got to the corner. And I thought I almost had a miss. I really thought I had a miss, and I just clipped him with my right front, and it broke something in the suspension and took me into the fence.
Sorry you're out tonight.
Thanks. See you.
Yeah, such disappointment only this early in the race, but you always think, man, I had it missed, and just didn't have enough room to miss it.
Also involved in the same incident was the 2 of Brad Keselowski. He's also down there with Dave.
Brad, describe what happened with your 2 car down there on the low line.
Yeah, I just got in the aero wake and it pulled me around. I knew I was in a bad spot and I was trying to, lay up, but there's only so much you can lay up. Here you get ran over from behind and just the air pulled me right around. Dave kind of sucks and I feel bad for everybody on the Miller Lite Ford team, and I think I tore up 2 or 3 other guys. That really sucks for them, but I don't know, it was just kind of a tough spot to be in on these tracks where, they're kind of one groove and you can't just lay up every time. You just give up too many spots or you get ran over from behind, and if you drive in at all with anyone even close to being beside you, the cars just spin out and wreck. So it sucks, but it is what it is, and I had to find a way around it, and we didn't today.
Brad's out at Kentucky.
And Martin Truex Jr. is going to restart on the inside, Kelly.
And a quick message from Cole Pern saying without a yellow, we'll need to make up about 5 laps.
Make up laps while you're trying to fight for the lead at Kentucky. Kyle Busch will be on the outside. Martin Truex Jr. on the inside.
And 5 laps, Steve. That's not a couple. 5 laps is a lot to try to make up.
5 laps means you're coming to pit road. I mean, it's just not worth running out of fuel in the middle of a race.
Harvick, Kenseth back in 2. McMurray and Elliott in 3. Kurt Busch, Erik Jones in 4. Green flag back in the air. Joey Logano trying the apron once again, making it 3 wide as he gets the position going into 1, but then slows down. Trying not to carry too much momentum as Kurt Busch is going to come back on the inside and try to take the spot back. And once again, the intensity picking up. 61 laps to go in the second stage.
Are you sure? Because they're racing like there's about 10 laps to go in the race. It's amazing how aggressive it is. Jeff, you mentioned it at the top of the show that everyone knew restarts was the time to try to gain positions, and these drivers are backing up your thoughts. Very aggressive early on in the race.
And Brad Keselowski said it. You can't back up. You can't just quit. If you do, you'll never advance yourself. So you have to remain on kill. You have to remain on offense. If not, you're going to go to the back.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. able to surge out in front of the 22 of Logano. Now Ryan Blaney all the way down on the apron, bouncing through some of the bumps down there, and Blaney's going to be able to pass Logano.
You saw what Logano did. He knew he had a hole behind Blaney, so he lifted early and just rolled in behind rather than going in there side by side with him. Kyle Larson making it 3 wide.
So I'm trying to figure out what the feeling would be like. Would it be like you're going 80 miles an hour down the interstate, and the next thing you know, you're driving on the shoulder for a while when they go to the apron?
No, it'd feel like you're going 180 miles an hour and you're driving on the shoulder.
I can't feel that.
Hey, Rick, kind of a battle within a battle here. You see Ryan Blaney up in front of all these guys. He and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. are the furthest forward of those who are good to go all the way on fuel, no questions asked. So they're going to go as hard as they can. Kyle Larson's team also told him, hey, everybody in front of you has to save a little bit during this run. We don't. Take advantage of that right now. So these guys are trying to get as much track position, as many cars as they can, because they know the guys out front, they're having to save fuel at some point.
I like that theory, Marty, but the problem is, by my calculations, the car that's farthest up is actually Clint Boyer. We just saw him in an accident in the middle of 3 and 4. He used that opportunity, repair his race car, get on this fuel strategy. So while Stenhouse and Blaney are in good position, I think Clint Boyer in this 14 is actually in the best position of anyone on fuel.
Steve, he pitted on lap 91. That's where his situation is right now. And radioed to his crew, hey, let's make something out of this. It's not too bad. I just confirmed with his crew chief, Mike Bugaravich, that the car is okay, and Clint remains in the top 10.
You see right there the last pit. The graphic of tires is important, but those cars down there, the laps are even more important. The 14 came in lap 91, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. lap 96. That's what it's all about, Rick.
And you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. chasing after the 22 and 11. Let's listen into the radio.
That's the first time I've ever had a crew chief tell me to save fuel, and we had plenty of fuel. Probably going to be the norm, like in about 2 more years. Just save fuel even when you don't need to be saved. I could save, say, cycle engine for the restarts.
Communications.
Saving fuel is a way of doing business now. You do it from the time they start the cars at the beginning of the race.
I was going to say, Jeff, I'll be honest. I'd be mad if you didn't save. You shouldn't have to be told anymore in the yellows. You see Denny Hamlin trying to look underneath Joey Logano. Even if it's not a fuel mileage thing, Rick, it's the speed of the pit stop. Less fuel you put in makes the pit stop more efficient. These teams turn over every stone, every advantage possible, and it can be frustrating at times.
Denny Hamlin rebounding after the pit road speeding penalty. He's running 15th now, chasing after Logano for that 14th spot.
Starting to see some cars. Logano there, left side's actually below the yellow line in the middle of 3 and 4.
Hamlin was looking to the inside of Logano. There are only 21 cars on the lead lap. Chris Buescher a lap down, running 22nd. Paul Menard is the last car on the lead lap, running 21st.
You wonder why the left sides are below the yellow line. There's just grip there. There's new asphalt, new pavement there. Sometimes you'll see Harvick at Atlanta with left sides below the yellow line. Talking about Phoenix, you run left sides below the yellow line. For some reason, you get those lefts on that newer asphalt that hasn't been run on many times. It just makes more grip.
Those tracks you mentioned, though, Jeff, are short tracks, much slower tracks. Do you have to be more careful at a high-speed track like this if you're going to venture below that yellow line?
Imagine that, Kyle Larson passing someone.
We have seen that a few times as Larson now is up to 11th. He also had a speeding penalty, and so that put him to the back of the longest line. But he was still in the top 20. Let's go to Marty.
Battles all over the racetrack. Joey Logano doing his best to try and hang on to that 15th position. And Tab Boyd, his spotter, was kind of keeping him updated as to what Denny Hamlin was doing. He said he's dipping below the yellow line, as you just mentioned a moment ago, Jeff. So I've never heard spotters talk so much about line sensitivity as they have here this weekend. It seems like if you're off a foot, you'll lose 0.2 of a second, Jeff.
Yeah, Marty, that's right. And the foot, if you miss it, it's speed, but it's also it's the track position we keep talking about. You give up one spot on this green flag run, well, that may take you forever to get it back if you have the best car. So if you miss your line, you get up the racetrack just a touch, somebody takes advantage of that, it may take you 30 laps to get by a car that's actually a little slower than you. So people think about driving a race car as being all right foot and bravery. It's about being precise. It's about hitting your marks, doing everything just right. Kyle Larson, he seems to have no problem doing everything just right.
Want to listen into the 42 communications as caution comes out. We'll take a little break there as far as the radio goes, but the caution has come out. The slide coming off of turn 4 of the 6 of Trevor Bayne, right at the entrance of pit road. Already the 5th caution.
This caution helps those guys that needed to save fuel, Steve.
Well, and I think at this point, Jeff, they're pot committed because the drivers behind them that pitted on the last yellow, they are without a doubt not coming in. So as you see Trevor Bayne takes the hard left back into the garage area, his night is over. You know, those leaders are going to have to stay on the racetrack. We mentioned Trevor Bayne was in an accident earlier, and you see him in the second groove, still in the black, but the car just loses grip, sprints around very easily. I just think it comes down to that damage. That decklet has so much damage. The spoiler's not really in the air. We already learned, we heard Brad Keselowski talk about how sensitive the air was. Well, poor Trevor Bayne doesn't have much of a car to ram. I mean, you look, you can barely even see the spoiler. So they did the best. Yeah, they did the best they could do with the repairs. But
I had mentioned the 42 radio. Let's listen in now.
Sounds like I got an electrical fire or something. Volts are 14.4. 10.4. You got smoke or you just smell it? Smelled it there for a couple laps. I don't know, maybe if it was from Stenhouse.
And Jeff, that's a great point. You use all your senses inside the race car. He said that smell has kind of gone away. So it's not just sight or sound. Sometimes you're smelling things inside the race car. And again, he said he thinks that might have actually been from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He followed him for several laps. He has since gotten around him, but sometimes you can even smell things going wrong in other race cars. Dave?
Jamie McMurray has decided to pit the one car that has been very fast tonight. That run for him was just a little bit better, but he wanted 2 tires and a chance to fill the car full of fuel, Marty.
Chase Elliott on pit road, Dave, just not going to make it on fuel there. The guys who stayed out are going to have to save hard to be able to make it all the way to the end of this stage. It's going to be 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, and no fuel concerns for that 24, Kelly.
And the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. also made another pit stop, a little bit peculiar because we saw him down earlier, but they gave him 4 fresh Goodyear tires and filled them full of fuel.
Coming off of pit road, it doesn't matter how they come off of pit road. So many cars stayed out. They've lost a ton of track position if they came to pit road. NASCAR on NBCSN is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Subway restaurants. And Monster Energy. Unleash the beast. Welcome back to the Quaker State 400 from Kentucky Speedway. Let's go to Rutledge Wood.
Rick, up here above turn 1, I have found my new favorite place to watch a race. We are here in Action Alley. This is an area built and made for college students. We are talking about University of Louisville as representing so big. Beer is $2. That is cheaper than water here. But check out this view for restarts, Rick. You can see everything, the whole track. It is rowdy as can be up here. I think this is where I want to watch every race from now on. Rick?
Rut, don't you wish you would have went to college now?
Listen, college, nothing. If the view's that good, I say we move the booth. They look like they're having a great time down there in turn 1.
See you later, Rick.
A great time. We'll catch you guys toward the end of the race. 2x2 once again getting ready to come into the restart zone. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. Great crowd on hand here at Kentucky. Once again, that outside line on the restart works for Kyle Busch. And now Kevin Harvick challenging on the high line as he tries to get by the 78. A little bobble there by Martin Truex Jr. Again, the left side's below the yellow line as he went through 3 and 4.
How about Harvick with the confidence off turn 2 to stay in that outside line. Now Martin Truex battling back on the inside.
And Martin Truex Jr. will take the spot back. Kyle Busch, Truex Jr., Harvick, Kenseth, and Eric Jones running in the top 5. 3 of the top 5 right now did double duty today. The 18, the 4, and the 77. Ran the Xfinity race earlier. And now trying to get through 400 miles in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Six of Trevor Bayne has been evaluated and released from the Infield Care Center. Darrell Wallace Jr. with the Coca-Cola on board looking back at Daniel Suarez. Darrell Wallace Jr. was a regular in the Xfinity Series. Then was told that his ride would end as the financing ended for Darrell Wallace Jr. in his Xfinity ride, and it just so happened at that same time Eric Almirola was hurt, and so he was tapped on the shoulder and said, we would like you to substitute drive for Eric Almirola in the 43, and he's done a great job subbing for Eric in this 43 car.
He really has. I mean, what a crushing blow it must have been. They were 4th in points when they decided not to run anymore. It didn't have the funding. So I think to try to control that emotion and get in this Cup car and see it as an opportunity, he has done a very nice job.
Kurt Busch trying to stay in front of the 42, and it's been difficult for anyone to do that this evening as Kyle Larson now has passed Kurt Busch.
And that's the conversation. We hear drivers talk about narrow groove, hard to pass, track position. Well, nobody let Kyle Larson know that because he has passed more cars than any car tonight. If he can just limit the mistakes and not have to go to the back of the, the back of the pack, perhaps we'll see what this 42 car has if he ever gets up and can race the leaders.
39 laps to go in the second stage. Kyle Busch is about 4 seconds in front of Kyle Larson. We're being told that Kyle Larson has already passed 57 cars for position tonight, and there are only 40 in the whole field. So he's gone from the back to the front to the back again and working his way back toward the front.
Well, that right there was the 100th green flag lap run. So 57 cars and 100 green flag laps, I would say that's a pretty good average.
Daniel Suarez in the 19 as we're looking back from Darrell Wallace Jr. Suarez from Monterrey, Mexico was able to capture the Xfinity Series championship in 2016 and become the first foreign-born driver to win a championship in the top 3 series of NASCAR.
I love this shot right here out of the back of Darrell Wallace Jr. It just shows how this 200-mile-an-hour chess match is truly a game of inches. The 43 goes down, and it's inches whether he covers that yellow line enough to make his car turn. Can he protect Daniel Suarez right here off his rear bumper? It's inches that he's trying to get his left front fender out to get a little bit of that clean air. These drivers, they're like surgeons with their vehicle. They're putting them just in the perfect spot.
We'll see Chase Elliott trying to make a move on Ryan Newman. Remember, Chase Elliott pitted. When this restart happened, he restarted in 20th. So he has tires on the car. He restarted in 20th. Right now, he's battling Blaney for the 10th spot, taking that 10th spot. Then there's Jamie McMurray jumping in the same scene. Did the same thing. He pitted. Now they're all battling, but they're moving their way up to the front. Jamie McMurray 3 wide on the outside.
Somebody tell Denny Hamlin that Jamie McMurray is behind him, because earlier we saw Jamie McMurray hit a bump, move up the track, and hit the 11. The 11 right away responded with, tell his spotter, if we get up to him, we're going to move him. Well, they are now 2 cars, no cars in between. The 11 just in front of the 1. Darrell Wallace Jr. in front of Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the left side of your screen. A battle for 13th continuing to brew. Kyle Busch has led 105 of the 126 laps tonight. And welcome back to Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Racing. Telecast presented by Toyota. Coming up on Sunday night with Megan Kelly, Boys and Girls in Confidence, a new study with surprising results, plus the controversy surrounding charter schools. A chat with Ed Sheeran and more. That's tomorrow night at 7, 6 Central on NBC. There's the gap between 1 and 2. Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. And Jr. gets to the inside, and he will take the lead away from Kyle Busch. So now Martin Truex Jr. back out front. He's already led 21 laps tonight and looking to add to that number.
It's a pattern we see an awful lot. The longer these races go, the better Martin Truex Jr., that 78 car, get. They just seem to like long runs.
I just thought he knew we were getting close to the end of a stage. That's usually when he goes up to the front and takes the lead.
He has definitely figured that out. I want to listen into spotter communication from the 18 team.
We're still a couple laps short here, no more than you need. Stay off that brake pedal, 28.94, 29.11 behind, 1.0.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Stay off that brake pedal.
Yeah, the more you can stay off that brake pedal, I know that sounds strange, but the better fuel mileage you get, because you're trying to make lap time and save fuel. So if you can keep that car from slowing down, that means you don't have to speed it back up with the accelerator. So you think about fuel mileage all with the right foot, but your left foot can affect it as well.
And Jeff, that transmission happened when Kyle Busch kind of jumped out to a lead. It was a little too big of a lead for Adam Stevens' liking, because as he was saying, slow your lap times down. We still have to save fuel. These leaders are about 2 laps short from making it to the end of the stage. They're going to need another caution, or they're going to have to come down pit road. And Steve, I think it's amazing that we're sitting here talking about, and there's the caution they need right there, possibly.
Into the wall. That is the 23. So Joey Gase.
Clear low, clear low. Take it to the garage. Take it to the garage.
That is caution number 6. And now the question is, will someone chance it to come maybe get fresh tires? Because fuel shouldn't be a question mark anymore.
I really think with 23 laps to go, the leader, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, they obviously love their track position. They don't want to give it up. They're going to probably stay on the racetrack, but you have to wonder if you look back and say the 9th position of Kurt Busch, he's also on those same strategy, but now he's kind of stuck on older tires, as you mentioned, Rick, around newer tires. So maybe it's time to say, you know what, good plan, bad execution, it didn't work, we need to do something different, as we see Joey Gase. Oh, it's never good to see one go straight, Jeff.
No, it's not. Just nothing you can do. Obviously, a right front down or something mechanical just would not turn. His misfortune, perhaps, though, is fortunate for Jamie McMurray, Chase Elliott, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Remember, they pitted on lap 113, and we all are like, why did they pit? Well, we may learn why they pitted. Some guys in front of them will probably hit pit road right now. They'll gain some spots, and even if they don't, they're going to be racing against people and they have much fresher tires.
See who comes to pit road. It's open right now, and the leaders once again are going to stay out, as we discussed. And you brought up, Rick, those older tires. The 41 of Kurt Busch, he hits pit road. The 11 of Denny Hamlin. So some cars are opting to try to gain an advantage over the cars in front of them. Kelly?
And you're exactly right, as we see that 41 of Kurt Busch now coming to pit road, and they will, in fact, give him 4 fresh tires field. They're also going to make an air pressure adjustment to help him out with the handling of that 41, Marty.
The 41 came in right in front of Denny Hamlin, so they decided to come to pit road as well. Denny said the car's much better, actually. He said it's turning much better and in the track much better right now for the 11 car. Ryan Blaney also on pit road here. His car has been tight for much of the evening. 4 fresh Goodyear tires for all these guys. You're going to see a wedge adjustment on that 21 car and a little tape on the grill as well.
As we're closing in on the end of stage 2, a lot of people thinking about that, but big picture, some guys need a win, like Denny Hamlin. Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. Make sure to join us. NBC Sports personalities will join Mike Bagley, Pete Pistone. Again, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. to discuss what has taken place the previous weekend, as well as what we can look forward to coming up. And Jeff, I believe you'll be joining the crew this week coming up.
I will be. It's always fun to do that. We learn so much.
It is fun to discuss it with the guys, as well as NASCAR America, which is at 5 o'clock Eastern weekdays now. And that is an hour you do not want to miss, as you are getting your fix for everything NASCAR and what is taking place. The big show coming up on Wednesday will include Eric Almirola from the Hall of Fame. We'll be in a new area this week. Last week it was the Great Hall. We'll be in the Hall of Honor with Eric Almirola, where the spires of the most recently inducted Hall of Fame members are held. And it's a beautiful facility and a great opportunity for us to look back at what's going on with the sport of NASCAR, as well as look at what's happening with a young driver like Eric Almirola on his recovery.
And Rick, you and I'll be with Eric, and it's going to be really, really interesting to understand what he's gone through and when he can come back. You know, we heard Darrell Wallace say this may be his last race. Is Eric coming back next week?
Right.
We don't know that yet. It'll be fun to sit down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah, join us on Wednesday, and we'll get that information from Eric as to how his recovery has gone and when he will be back behind the wheel of the 43. So now a little strategy has come into play. Guys, as high as 8th for Denny Hamlin. He came to pit road. And listen into the 78 radio.
Think about the restart. I don't know. At least we're on older tires here. Seemed like we did better on the old tires before comparatively.
Cleaning the tires, warming the tires. The 78-18. Moving back and forth as those two once again will make up row one. It's been really the 1878 show since the drop of the green flag. Martin Truex Jr. out front, Kyle Busch second, into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air.
Matt Kenseth spun his tires right there. Kyle Larson gave him a shot just past the start-finish line.
And once again, the outside line works on the restart. Martin Truex Jr. shoots out to the front. Watch for the 42 of Kyle Larson. Starting quite a bit closer to the front. We'll see if he can take advantage of that track position. Slides up the racetrack, has to catch it.
Now he's 3 wide on the outside. He's going to have to surrender this position. He cannot drive in there 3 wide on the outside.
Looking back from Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s nationwide onboard camera, and the fall to the back continues for Kyle Larson.
You know, Jeff, we talk about track position, and without a doubt the clean air is helping the front 2 or 3 cars. But these other cars, you just mentioned Dale Jr., he's come back to the 7th position after coming to get tires. So it seems like if you're stuck in this mess here of traffic and air, the newer tires do help your race car.
A big wiggle right there. Replay shows the 42. And that wiggle, he's off the throttle. The only thing you can do at that point as a driver is come off the throttle, and you can see what happens. Now all that momentum is getting built from behind, and it leads to losing several positions, not just these 2 or 3.
Jeff, I'm afraid to know the car count of how many cars Kyle Larson has passed this evening, though. He just came on the radio and said, sorry, guys, I just got super loose there. So once again, he's fallen back to the 11th position. And one thing we've noticed, they're very quick on newer tires, but when those older tires come in later in the run, 42 loses a little bit of speed. Well, that'll be an interesting thing if he can get up there and race with the 18 and 78 as to how that might play out for the win.
And Marty, interestingly, we sat down with Kyle Larson yesterday in his bus and talked to him a little bit about just racing in general. And what surprised me is Kyle said, you know what, I don't know much about these cars. Like, I don't look under the cars. I never tell the crew chief what I think the changes need to be made. I just tell him if it's loose, if it's tight. And he made that comment there where it just got loose. Sorry, guys. Well, now the crew chief has to think about that and say, do I need to tighten this car up for him, or was that an instance where it got loose because Kyle Larson wasn't specific in saying, hey, my car is loose now. He said, I just got loose there.
Yeah, you see right now, he thought it was just at one moment, but he's continuing to lose spots as Chase Elliott works underneath it. And this is a battle we're not going to see for a few races. We're going to see perhaps for a few decades. Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson, these two are going to have a rivalry well into the future.
Two young drivers, Chase Elliott just 21 years old, Kyle Larson a little bit older. Kyle Larson 24 years old from Elk Grove, California. Martin Truex Jr. about a second lead over Kyle Busch now. Matt Kenseth currently running in the 3rd position.
And how about Matt Kenseth? This is stereotypical Matt Kenseth, right? Just kind of hanging around, staying in the fight. This run, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., they haven't gotten away from him. They drove away a little bit on the restart, but he's pretty much maintained pace. So as this race continues on, Matt Kenseth may become more and more of a threat. And wouldn't it be cool to see Matt Kenseth win on the week that he said he wasn't going to be at Joe Gibbs Racing next year?
And Jeff, one of the reasons that could happen was because it was such a relief for Matt to get that news out there. He told me, I've known for about a month. It was just a relief now to be able, for my family who knew too, just to be able to say it and now move on to the next thing. The next thing is hopefully going to be a win here at Kentucky. First, he can go after the car in front of him. That was one of his questions. Do you want me to save fuel, or do you want me to go after him? Go after him. And to be a little bit better, Matt says, you need to fix my car. It's a little bit tight off of turn 2.
Dave, I've worked with Matt. He's been a teammate of mine. I was with him at Roush the year he won the championship. I can promise you that Matt Kenseth still has the fire inside of him. He wants to win races. I spoke to him earlier this week. He expressed to me how much he still cared about racing, the desire he had about it. He believes in his ability. He doesn't believe he's lost anything, that he can still win, and he's still as good as he was the year he won the championship.
Yeah, you think about it. Matt Kenseth, the only other downforce track that he's led laps at all year long was Richmond. So this is a marked improvement for this 20 car. So as Dave reported, that pressure perhaps was what was holding Matt Kenseth back, and it's gone now, and he's looking much, much better.
And Steve, one thing we've seen from this 20 car is mistakes. We've seen, pit road speeding, sliding to the pit box, those kind of things. When you're having this kind of night, you can't afford them. They've got to be clean.
Under 9 laps to go. Let's go through the field, brought to you by Carl's Jr. Kelly.
And just 9 laps for Martin Truex Jr. trying to make it 13 stage wins. When I asked Cole Porn if he was surprised how well they've been able to use this format, he said no, not at all. I mean, looking back last year, we could have easily done the same thing. We led a lot of laps, started up front, qualified well. This stage format's just working well for us. So is his car in the long run, Marty.
Just 8 laps left in this segment. Leaders, in theory, should be okay on fuel. How does Kyle Busch feel about how his car is handling? Take a listen.
What do you got here? I don't know. Second best car is what I got. How can I help you? I don't know, son. It's the same stuff every week. I don't know. 10-4.
A little frustration in his voice there. Again, Truex much better on the long runs than Kyle Busch, and they share information between those two teams. Don't forget that, Dave.
This weekend, Matt Kenseth told me that the battle for them has been turns 3 and 4. He said, I call turns 1 and 2 a break-even corner. Everyone does pretty well there, but as we tuned on 3 and 4, that's where we got better. Marty?
Dave, I asked Kevin Harvick what to expect today. He said, honestly, not much. We struggled in practice big time. Made several changes to the car today, and they haven't been out of the top 5 all evening long. Harvick said the car very good in 1 and 2, but a little bit too tight in turn 3, Kelly.
Eric Jones finished 3rd in the Xfinity race earlier today. I asked Chris Gale if he liked him racing the doubleheader. He said, I'm not sure. On one hand, you'll know the grip level of the track, but on the other, the downforce level is just so different between these cars. Sometimes that hurts us. There's a little bit of transition time when he goes from one car to another. Doesn't seem to be hurting him here. He's in the top 5, Dave. Jamie
Mcmurray's crew chief, Matt McCall, told me that they took a lot of notes from the 42 this weekend. And why wouldn't you every week? They do tend to do that because he's been running so well. Jamie very pleased with his car tonight as far as speed goes, trying to make up a few positions here before the end. Kelly?
Kurt Busch started the season winning the Daytona 500, but since then they just haven't had the consistency that they've had last year. Tony Gibson saying they have gotten better since Texas. They're making some gains, but he said the group as a whole is just too inconsistent. They knew there would be some struggle making the switch to Ford, but they've got to get better. But he's got a good top 10 run going now, Dave.
8th place is Clint Boyer in the 4 team. What's one thing that keeps him going? Humor. During the cautions between himself and crew chief Mike Bugaravich, it's back and forth, trying to keep everybody loose during the race, Marty.
Dave, since the leader stopped on lap 83, Chase Elliott and his team have stopped twice. Alan Gustafson making those calls, and it's worked out. Chase with those fresh Goodyear tires coming back up through the field in 9th right now. Behind him, Denny Hamlin with the fastest car on the racetrack right now in the 10th spot. Remember, they had that speeding penalty earlier on. They've been clawing back from that all evening long. As we talked about, Rick, track position going to be king here at Kentucky.
And we need to keep our eye right now on the top 4, top 5 because of fuel. They came to pit road on lap 83. They're trying to stretch it.
Well, Rick, at the beginning of the show, we said they could go maybe 65, 66 laps. They're trying to go 77 laps. And while that seems ridiculous, they've had 21 laps of caution in those 77 laps. So it's definitely not ridiculous. They're really trying to go about what would equate to 66, maybe 67 green. So I think they can all make it. But unfortunately, I've thought I could make it before and have my car coast down the backstretch. So it's very important for these leaders to have saved what they can, because now with 2 to go, there's really no more time to save.
And Steve, it's one thing to make it to the end of this stage. As you mentioned, just 2 laps to go. It's another thing to make it back to pit road, right? Adam Stevens told Kyle Busch, as soon as this caution comes out to end this stage, I want you to shut everything down, save as much fuel as you can, and flip your white switch. That white switch is a little reserve fuel to make sure he can get back to pit road, because even if you finish the stage, you got to make it back to pit road with enough fuel to get here.
Well, Marty, what I'm so amazed about is this isn't something we're talking about for the race win. This is something, the strategy we're talking about for a stage. So, Steve, to me, this is a complete departure from what we've seen in the past, gambling this much in the middle of a race.
Coming through 3 and 4, going for stage win number 2 on the night. Martin Truex Jr. will get it again. That's 4 times now that he has swept the first 2 stages in a race. That is why he is leading in playoff points. And his point totals continue to escalate. 2 times he has won races already in 2017. First came at Las Vegas, the second at Kansas. Can he put Kentucky on the win list for 2017? Martin Truex Jr. wins stage 2. Welcome back. We have completed the second stage from Kentucky. And Martin Truex Jr. once again victorious as they come through 3 and 4, getting ready to come to pit road once again. And it has been all Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. Truex Jr. has led 50 laps. Within those 50 laps led, he has become the first driver in 2017 to lead 1,000 laps already this season. Dave.
8 stage points for Matt Kenseth, who finished 3rd in that one. He will get Sunoco fuel, right side and left side tires. He says, I need to be in the gas better off of the corners. Kelly?
Martin Truex Jr. is the only driver to sweep all 3 stages of a race. He did it at Las Vegas. He'll have a chance to do it here again tonight. The call was for 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel, Marty.
Going to be 4 Goodyear tires for Kyle Busch as well, because it's going to take all the Sunoco fuel they could get. They drained that 18 car about as far as they could go. Kyle said the further we run, the more it slides the nose. Denny Hamlin's going to win the race off pit road. He said to Mike Wheeler, I want to run up front with these guys. Just 2 tires for Hamlin.
And we take a look at the race off pit road, brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2. And is that a huge gamble, seeing guys take 2 tires and even Suarez not taking tires?
Well, actually, we've had 2 cars stay on the racetrack. So the front row is going to be Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney, who pitted about 25 or 30 laps ago. Then you have a group of 4 on 2 tires. I think, you know, is it a gamble? Yes. But we have watched the 78 and Kyle Busch completely dominate the field. So you can ride behind them all night, Rick, or you can do something. The 19, I'm pretty sure, took right side tires there. So that means those 4 cars are going to be on 2. I'm waiting to see the 78 and the 18. We've seen 42. Kyle Larson can pass cars. Martin Truex and Kyle Busch, they started on the front row. They haven't had to pass a lot of cars tonight.
And we showed that Daniel Suarez didn't take tires, but he actually did take 2 tires. So everybody that was on that list at least took 2 tires. We want to talk with the 20, who finished 3rd in stage 2, brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2. So let's see if we can chat with Matt Kenseth.
Hey, Matt, it's Jeff Burton, NBCSN booth. You with us?
Hey, Jeff.
Well, man, you've had a fast car all night. I know that some track position's been really important. I see people doing 2 tires. How do you feel tires are 2 tires, 4 tires? What would you rather have?
I'd rather be in the lead. You know, but I think that the strategy got mixed up. You know, the guys that weren't going to be in the top 10 could do things a little different there. We need to stay out and try to get as many points as we could in that stage. So I think that was a good move. I'm glad to have 4 tires on. Definitely have more grip, but we'll see how it is getting through traffic. It's not the easiest place to pass.
So, Matt, has the track changed much as the rubber's gotten laid down, or has it been pretty consistent through the whole night?
You know, biggest thing for me is when we got those qualifying left side tires off, my car changed a little bit for the better. So I feel better about our car since we got those off and got our first 4 tires on here. So hopefully I can do a little better job on restarts and not give up any spots. Hopefully gain a couple spots and you know, get up there in the mixes and maybe we can make something happen.
Well, man, I appreciate it. You'll be glad to know they got me a taller Apple box this week, so I look a little better on TV. Have fun, man.
I saw you when the race started. I thought you looked good.
And that is the dry sense of humor that we love out of Matt Kenseth. And while we're looking at the 20 team right now, we have to focus on the NBC Sports All-Star crew, the pit crew that we've been focusing on in 2017. And one of the members of the NBC Pit Crew All-Stars is Graham Mullich.
Yeah, this program is great, Rick. It highlights crew members throughout the garage here, whether on the pit crew, truck drivers, engineers. It takes so many people to put these cars on the racetrack and make them competitive. Graham is a perfect example of that. You're talking about a former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 8, graduate of Liberty University. This is his first season with Joe Gibbs Racing, but yet here he is jacking Matt Kenseth's race car on Sundays. I think he's the perfect example of what this whole program is about, Dave.
Steve from Charlotte, North Carolina, but never watched a race until after he got out of the service, got involved because of friends who knew that this would be a good place, a good match for him, and he loves it. He's probably most famous for getting flipped over a NASCAR Camping World truck in 2015, and then went on to pit 2 other cars that same weekend. Here it is. Look at that. The former Navy SEAL tough guy gets right back up after that and does his job the rest of the weekend. Pretty cool to see, and Graham now with Joe Gibbs Racing.
That's great, Rick, and he was actually found through basically an open tryout, an MWR. I mean, think about that. Someone with that much physical ability just happened to walk into a race team one day, try to be on a pit crew, and here he is.
And you still want to do it after that?
Yeah.
The same day. Not only do it later on, but he was still pitting that same day and that weekend. So pretty impressive for Graham. As we get ready for the restart, Logano and Blaney making up row one.
All the restarts have been pretty smooth tonight, but this one should be exciting. Remember, old tires on the front row, then 2 tires, then a group with 4 tires as Kyle Busch decides it's time to try the 3rd lane through 1 and 2.
No surprise, Kyle Busch on a restart making it 3 wide on the outside.
And he has the momentum as he comes flying up on the outside, trying to get by the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Those two have been side by side or nose to tail the entire race. Now mired back in traffic because of different strategies that people have taken.
Paul Menard, about 12th position, the yellow car, he did the same thing. He made it 3 wide on the outside. He made it work as well.
And I think other crew chiefs need to take some notes here. I was shocked that more drivers didn't stay on the racetrack like Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. I think that aggressive strategy is exactly what was needed. Pin this 78 and this 18 back in traffic. But with only 2 cars doing it, Jeff, I'm not sure it's going to work.
Yeah, it's such a divergence of indifference of strategies, but look who's in the front. We haven't seen these cars in the front all night. We talked about Joey Logano just not running very well. Now he's leading the race. We're going to find how much clean air is worth.
And guys needing wins. Joey Logano needs a win to be in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin, a win to be in the playoffs. Daniel Suarez needs a win to be in the playoffs. And they're all running up in the top 5.
Well, they better get going because at 78, we know he has wins and we know he has speed. So they better find a way to get some speed coming. Here he is underneath the 11 of Hamlin.
And I'm guessing there is a frustration because of the alliance that the 78 team has with Joe Gibbs Racing. The 78 team has been so good this year, already 2 wins, and we've mentioned, documented how many stage wins he's had. And they have an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. So Joe Gibbs Racing is giving them information. They're using that and then going out and beating them on the track week in and week out.
Years like this will test those types of alliances. It's very easy to give that information to a smaller team that can't outrun you on Sunday. But when that smaller team grows into the big powerhouse that the 78 team has become, it's much harder to just hand those notes over.
And here comes the 78, getting by Ryan Blaney for that 2nd spot.
He made short work of the 21, and by looks of this acceleration, he's going to go ahead and get both cars in the same lap.
Goes to the bottom of the track, and Martin Truex Jr. back to the front.
And I don't mean to take anything. You hear that, back to the lead. Spotters excited. I don't mean to take anything away from Cole Pearn and his strategy, but it's easy to have a good strategy when you have a great race car, and that's what Cole Pearn has done. He has given Martin Truex Jr. a great race car.
Well, it's time to get into the Toyota fast lane. Martin Truex Jr. on the right, race leader. Denny Hamlin on the left, currently running in the 5th position. Just lost a spot to his teammate Daniel Suarez, who's running up in 4th. I want to take a look at the Toyota's manufacturing facility, which is manufacturing the 2018 Camrys. That's just 50 miles south of where we are right now. Let's take a closer look.
At Toyota's largest manufacturing plant anywhere in the world, the all-new 2018 Toyota Camry is proudly being built in Kentucky with powerful new gas and hybrid powertrains that generate greater horsepower and superior fuel efficiency. The production Camry possesses aggressive new styling and aerodynamic characteristics that are also found in the Camry race car due to a redesigned process that keeps the race car as similar as possible to its production counterpart. Fans will have a chance to see the evolution of America's best-selling car for the past 15 years in showrooms later this summer.
And as we look at tonight's Toyota driver update, 3 of the top 5 right now are Toyotas. Martin Truex Jr., Daniel Suarez, Denny Hamlin, all running in the top 5. Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth also in the top 10.
Well, that's the perfect example. The 78 and the 18, they've been battling all night. We really wanted to know which car was going to be the best. Well, Martin Truex answered that question very quickly. 8th to the lead in 5 laps, while the 18 car is still stuck back in the 7th position.
Kelly.
And Martin Truex Jr. asked his team just that. What happened to the 18, knowing that he's the only car with 4 fresh tires that's been able to work back up to the front? The team telling them the 18 just simply got past. When I asked his crew chief what makes Martin so good on these mile-and-a-half tracks, he just said, hey, he's good everywhere. He knows what he needs out of a race car. They've got a good one on their hands tonight, Dave.
Talked to Scott Graves, the crew chief on the 19 this morning, about the 25-year-old Mexican Daniel Suarez and his improvements in this series. He said from Daytona to Daytona, which they've now had a chance to see, his progress has been great in the aggression area. There's so much more aggression at this level, and he's gotten Daniel to embrace it. 2 rights on that last stop, Marty. That got him track position.
Denny Hamlin trying to hang on in his Toyota. Right now he's in the 6th position, Dave, and he told Mike Wheeler before that last stop they decided to take 2 tires. He said, I want to see what that clean air up front is like. He had a sniff of it, but trying to hang on right now behind him, his teammate Kyle Busch, very frustrated. He said he's having to work the track bar inside the car, but the car still will not turn. He was very aggressive on that restart, Rick, but just hasn't made up the spots that the 78 did. Now going around Chase Elliott.
Around Chase Elliott for the 7th spot. Take another look here back at Kyle Busch.
Wow, it's way loose off the corner. I think Chase Elliott's probably thinking, great save.
They lost the spot to him.
Well, and he continues to lose spots, Rick. I mean, up until this run, he ran inside the top 2 for the whole race, and that save off turn 2, that's something we've seen Kyle Busch do here before. This is last year in practice. Look at this. When you leave tire tracks not just spinning to the right, but you're going to head and leave tire tracks spinning to the left as well, that is an impressive save.
And he does it again tonight in the race. He kept that thing pointed with all of that wheel input. Pointed down the racetrack and kept it going. And that's what he's done again tonight. We're seeing a little smoke out of the right rear of that 18. Let's listen into the radio.
It's tight, it won't turn. I need to go down on the track bar to keep lateral, but it won't turn. I step in the gas, but it just slides, so there's across the back of the car in front of me. Gets outside of him and that whip loose. That's hard, man. We knew we were going to be in traffic, so you have to drive it until the next stop. We have to stop one more time.
Well, when your car's driving that bad, it's hard to drive it any better. You see when he tried to step up the speed and try to step it up to go faster, how the car got away from him. The other interesting thing was he had to run the track bar down to get the lateral grip that he wanted, meaning to keep the car from spinning out. But then he said the car wouldn't turn. So running the track bar down helps out lateral grip, Steve, but it kills the front turn. So he's got 2 problems going on. The track bar is helping him on his corner entry, but it's killing him in the middle of the corner with the front tires turning.
Well, he has 3 problems going on because he's also back in 9th in all that dirty air, Jeff, which makes all those problems he described much, much worse.
And let's go NASCAR nonstop. You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing from Kentucky. And we look down on the mile-and-a-half track. Our aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. And we have focused a lot on the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. because he's been out front. He's won stage 1, he has won stage 2, and now 79 laps remain in this race. We know that everyone will have to come to pit road, including Martin Truex Jr., but it doesn't seem like anything has stopped this team from being out front. Initially it was Kyle Busch who in clean air was so successful, but now once he's back in the 8th position has had a hard time moving toward the front. Rutledge.
Rick, the person who's been keeping their eye on that lead car all night is Michael Drano right here. Michael Drano, we call him Drano. He's been in NASCAR over 20 years, huge guy that loves racing from Nashville, but his job all night is to follow that lead car. So 267 times tonight, he's up here on the roof catching that first camera. Amazing to see this vantage point, but I know why one of our best camera guys is also one of the biggest NASCAR fans out here. He's got the best seat in the house, Rick.
Let me tell you, Rutledge, he's let me come up there and practice and try to point that camera and follow a car. I can't keep it in frame. So Drano is the man. He makes it look way, way easier than it is.
Only driver this season to sweep both stages and win a race, and it took place at Las Vegas, and already he has won stage 1 and stage 2 tonight here in Kentucky. And there's just something about the 78 team and Martin Truex Jr. on mile-and-a-half tracks especially. They have been great, and it's not only been this year, it has been the past 2 years at least.
Well, they've been great, it seems like, on every racetrack, and as you see on the left side of your screen, everyone is on a little bit different strategy, but the 22 and the 21 are the 2 cars we should highlight. They did a wonderful job. Great strategy by Todd Gordon in that 22, staying out, getting that track position. The only touchy spot now is they're going to have to pit here in about, say, 10 laps. The leaders can go a little bit farther. A yellow there would definitely hurt them, but good, aggressive pit calls. Even if right here as we ride on board with Kevin Harvick, if he gets by Logano, it's still a huge net gain for the 22 car.
Yeah, gained them about 12, 14 spots because they've been running around 15th all evening long. And when they do pit, Steve, they'll be able to make it all the way if it stays green here for the rest of the race. You know, I talked to Todd Gordon we talked about their bad finishes and what's been going on. He said he and Joey Logano had a conversation. Do we back it down? Do we change who we are? He said absolutely not. We stay aggressive. That aggressive call has them in second place right now, but you see Kevin Harvick trying to chase him down for that second spot.
And that's a great point by Marty. While the 22 has to come a little early, every car in the field only need to make one more stop for fuel. And guess who comes back in the picture, Rick?
Look who's back on the screen. The 42 of Kyle Larson. What an eventful evening it has been for Kyle.
And you mentioned that conversation we had with him just yesterday. And one thing that struck me is, you were talking about his knowledge of the race car, but then you asked, we see you in a sprint car. We see you out at the little dirt tracks in a little mini outlaw car. And he basically said that he thinks every day he gets in a race car, it's better. It tests his reflexes, it's reps. Even though the car is completely different, he feels it helps him on Sunday.
And he loves racing. Yeah. He absolutely loves racing. He's not doing it for the money. He's not doing it for any other reason than it's his passion. He goes on Wednesday nights and races a little bitty racetrack, Millbridge, right? Not against big names, just him, because he loves to race.
24 of Chase Elliott able to get by the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Elliott up to 8th now. Another driver searching for his first win. Chase Elliott, just 21 years old. The son of Bill Elliott, Hall of Famer. And in Dawsonville, the pool hall at Dawsonville had a bell and a siren that every time Bill Elliott would win a race, they would sound that siren. They would sound the bell at the pool hall in Dawsonville. And they have said that when Chase Elliott gets that first win and whatever wins he's able to get, they will do it for Chase as well. So Chase Elliott still looking to get to victory lane, but everyone back in Dawsonville still cheering on this young man.
And they've sounded that siren when he's won in the Xfinity Series. They would love to do it tonight. Bill and Cindy, his mom and dad, not here this evening. He said they decided to stay home in Dawsonville this evening. Chase's car has been pretty good. The problem is, it takes a while to get going. In the initial part of the run, they struggle a little bit, but this part of the run is where they come on. Just got past Daniel Suarez a moment ago. We're actually trying to get around Daniel Suarez for the next position, but the 24 has been very strong all evening. Alan Gufson told me he has to be very aggressive, but Chase very good for a young guy being aggressive.
69 laps to go, and closing in on a few different drivers that are going to need a fuel stop as we go NASCAR nonstop. Welcome back to Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Racing. This telecast presented by Toyota. Martin Truex Jr. 85 laps out front, and he has been the dominant car. Even though Kyle Busch has led more laps, 112, when Martin Truex Jr. wanted to get to the front, which was at the end of each stage, stage 1 and stage 2, he was able to do it. Make the pass, get out front, get those stage wins.
Now we're getting to that point in the race where all of these teams have to decide when they're going to make their final pit stop. We all expect Joey Logano in the 22 to probably be one of the first cars on pit road because he has the least amount of fuel mileage. But this 78, Rick, you talked about his dominance. He has a 12-second lead on second, so he doesn't have to be aggressive on his pit strategy. And the issue is, Jeff, if he stays on the racetrack, there are a lot of these teams that will end up being 2 laps down after pitting. That makes it much more difficult to come to pit road.
Yeah, because that caution does come out and traps you 2 down. That's completely different than being 1 down. See Kyle Larson making that move on Harvick. That completely changes his strategy. I think that you'd want to come in when the 22 pitted, come in when he comes. Here comes the 22. I think this is going to drag some other teams with him.
I agree. I wouldn't race the 78. I would race the rest of the field. So after seeing the 22, Kyle Busch, all these other teams, I think need to be on pit road in the next handful of laps to keep up and get fresh tires.
Marty.
It is going to be interesting to see how many cars this 22 team drags down pit road. Joey Logano at one point tonight said, I have the worst car here in turns 1 and 2 on this past run. He says, much better. That clean air makes a huge difference. He said, I need a little bit more grip in 1 and 2. Otherwise, very good. 4 fresh Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel to make it to the end, Rick.
Looks like Ryan Blaney is going to be the second one onto pit road as the work gets done with the 22, the 21 now at pit road speed, coming to the attention of his crew. Marty?
Ryan Blaney saying, I'm losing so much time in 3 and 4. In fact, he described the turns 3 and 4 as terrible for him. Rick, he comes down pit road, going to turn into a stall here. It's going to be 4 Goodyear tires for Ryan Blaney. Sunoco fuel as well, trying to make it to the end. So these Team Penske cars coming down pit road first. Will any of the other leaders come down pit road? That's the big question.
Really, Marty, I think those other leaders are waiting for drivers like Ryan Blaney to return to the racetrack and post a lap time. It's easy to say, well, they got new tires, but what does that mean? How much time are they beating you by? As fast as as fast as Martin Truex is, I'm not sure he cares, but the rest of the field needs to, because those fresh tires will give them an advantage for a good amount of time.
The other thing it allows them to do, they know where Blaney was running, and they can compare him to the 78. Where does he come out? Does he come out 1 down or 2 laps down? That gives them real information. I know they had that all figured out. The engineers have it all figured out and graphed out, but now you can actually look at it and say, okay, here's exactly where Blaney ended up.
Logano a lap down, Austin Dillon, Paul Menard, Ryan Newman all going a lap down now as the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. 13 seconds between he and Kyle Larson, who's running second now. Kevin Harvick is third, Kyle Busch fourth, Chase Elliott is fifth as the green flag pit stops are starting to cycle through. Are you surprised that not many others have decided to come to pit road as early?
Well, I'm surprised that some aren't pushing the issue, but Ryan Blaney has lost 2 laps pitting from the 6th position, and I think that's what these teams look at. As Jeff mentioned before this pit cycle, being 2 down, you're trapped. The wave around is only going to get you 1, and the other part of this equation is Logano is really not running much faster than the leaders are on old tires. We've talked about this new pavement. We've talked about tires. It seems like those fresh tires help you in traffic, but here on a strung out field when you can get some air in your car, Logano isn't making up a lot of ground. This is very important for Ryan Blaney, though. We mentioned he's 2 laps down. Well, he's 2 laps by 5 car lengths. Very important for him to unlap himself in case that yellow does come out.
It is so difficult to get 2 laps back. It's so much easier to get 1 back. So for Blaney right now, this is huge. This is the mission. But again, all of the people on pit road watched that. They saw where Blaney was. He pitted he was running pretty well. He was in a top 10, and he came out 2 laps down. So that's the problem. That makes it more difficult and much harder for the 2 cars that pitted to drag more people onto pit road.
It's been 50 laps since Martin Truex Jr. was last on pit road. It was back at lap 163. Now 2:13 completed. We go NASCAR nonstop. tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Eastern on NBCSN. It's the Verizon IndyCar Series, set for some short track racing at Iowa Speedway in Newton, Iowa. Will Power won the pole. Still looking very strong as Scott Dixon leading the points in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Martin Truex Jr. really continuing to put together incredible lap times. He's one of the few that is still turning lap times under 30 seconds. 24 of Chase Elliott has made his way onto pit road. Let's go back to Marty.
Rick, the first of the cars in the top 5 to come to pit road. Chase Elliott was running 5th when he decided to come to pit road. Alan Gustafson talked about maybe even coming earlier than this. So there's the first of the leaders coming down pit road. He said the car was free, which means it was a little bit better, just an air pressure adjustment to tighten it up, Rick.
So now the question is, when does Martin Truex Jr. need to come to pit road?
He will be the last car. There is no reason for Martin Truex Jr. to take any risk. Run out. You're still gaining on everyone. You're going to see right here, he's going to lap the 24 easily and put him 2 laps down because he has such a gigantic lead. So I think the risk is for everyone else in the field. If I'm the 78, I run as long as possible. Maybe you catch a caution and actually trap more cars off the lead lap. I think this is the beauty of having a great race car. Just continue to pound laps and put everybody laps down. Dave?
Daniel Suarez's car did not work well going into or out of the corners, so he's going to get 4 Goodyear tires, a fill of Sunoco fuel, and air pressure adjustment. Marty?
Boy, earlier on, Dave, Kyle Busch had the dominant car, but he never was able to make progress. He still, at this point, has led the most laps tonight, 112, so the car just too tight for him. He had to work his track bar, so they're going to make an air pressure and a wedge adjustment, trying to help him out a little bit so he can get the track bar back to where he wants. 4 fresh Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel.
Rick, the other advantage for the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. as we see Kyle Busch blending back on the racetrack is the later he pits, if a late caution does come out, he'll have the freshest tires. So with 44 to go, you know, commit to that strategy. You have earned the lead. Pit late, put some fresh, put fresh tires on it, and you'll have the best tires as you get later into a run, as we see Chase Elliott unlapping himself, going now to only 1 lap down.
But one of the things that you don't want to do if you're Cole Pearn is run your car out of gas. Yeah, so he's been on the racetrack for 61 laps already. Yeah, why would you flirt with running out of gas? You should bring your car to pit road before that's even close, right?
Yeah, but they know very well what the window is. Kelly?
And you see Bubba Wallace there in the 43 making his pit stop in what could be his final substitution role for Eric Almirola. Said that didn't add any pressure. He was just fired up, ready to go tonight, make the most of the opportunity, Marty.
Kelly, the 2nd and 3rd place cars pitting right now. Kyle Larson coming down pit road. His car so good in the middle part of the run. That's their sweet spot with 43 to go. Pitting right here. That should be very good for them. Kevin Harvick right in front of him says his car is way too tight. 4 fresh Goodyear tires and a big edge adjustment trying to loosen up Harvick's car, Kelly.
Martin Truex Jr. held the lead between 10 and 15 seconds, so it's been pretty quiet on the radio. See, they're going to go ahead and give Truex 4 fresh Goodyear tires and that fuel he'll need to get to the end of the race.
He's going to have enough fuel to get to the end of the race. If it stays green, though, he's going to still have the lead, potentially. Kelly?
And now that's the rookie Eric Jones. He just said he's got no right rear grip, but his car really not too bad overall. 4 Goodyear tires in Sunoco, Marty.
Denny Hamlin leaving pit road. He said the front just did not work as good as he would like on that run. Wedge adjustment, 4 Goodyear tires, trying to free up that car a little bit, Dave.
The frustration for Kenseth is where he was so good in turn 3 has now gone away. That's one of the worst parts of the track for him right now. 4 tires, fill of fuel to get to the end. And maybe overtime, Rick.
That's a good point. The possibility does exist that we could go into overtime. Matt Kenseth coming off of pit road. Dale Earnhardt Jr. scored as the race leader. But for how long? Dale Earnhardt Jr. will still have to come to pit road, as will Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon. Those 3 are the only 3 cars in front of Martin Truex Jr. right now on the racetrack. Martin Truex Jr. never lost off of the lead lap. he was so far in front.
Yeah, and the 88 right now, they're just trying to preserve a lap, hoping by catching a yellow, because when they come to pit road, I believe that the 78 Martin Truex Jr. will actually lap him.
We're seeing a little bit of a problem. You can see in that picture the windshield was moving around. Well, look at the screws actually coming out of the front windshield. See that front screw right there? It actually flies out. See at the front of your screen, top corner of your screen, you see the windshield shaking around. So they've lost the windshield braces and the bolts at the top of the roof.
Well, here goes the second one. We saw the one on the left go. Now the one on the right goes. So I wouldn't think that'd be a very big problem, Dave, but something to watch.
And Austin Dillon has had a frustrating night off the lead lap most of the night. Comes in for his final stop, 4 tires and fuel.
And now the 88 coming to the attention of his crew. Kelly.
And Rick, I can tell you that Dale Earnhardt Jr. has had to deal with a host of different handling problems throughout this race. At one point, they tried to play a little bit of strategy, hoping to make up some ground. Nothing really seems to work because he just hasn't been able to get the handling that he needs on the 88. But we'll see what he does here with those 4 fresh Goodyear tires.
You saw the guy who took the tear off the windshield look at the top of that windshield. I'm sure that there's been some communication about, hey, you know, this windshield looks like it's buffeting a little bit. Martin Truex Jr. back out in front. Kyle Larson being scored second. Excuse me, Kyle Busch being scored second, 11 seconds behind Martin Truex Jr. Kyle Larson running third. He's 13 seconds back of Martin Truex Jr. And just 37 laps remaining in this race.
You know what's so impressive about 78 of Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn is that, you know, Steve, we typically in our sport talk about hundredths of a second. These guys have been 2/10 a lap, 3/10 a lap faster than the competition tonight. This has not even been close in regard to speed. From about halfway through the race on, it has been complete domination by the 78.
And this, Rick, is purely a result of the stages and the playoff system. In years past, Martin Truex Jr. wouldn't have a lot to race for over the summer. He would be locked in. It would be kind of ho-hum until they left Richmond. Not this year. There's so much left for the 78 to still earn. You see the playoff point standings, 23 playoff points. So that means at the start of every round in the playoffs, he's going to start with 23 more points than perhaps someone like Jamie McMurray that may get in only by points. So every race he wins, there's 5 points available. Every stage he wins, that's 1 more of those playoff points. This is huge. Martin Truex Jr. in the 78 has so much to race for this summer. They continue to put the pedal down. And as you said, Jeff, it was obvious from about halfway on in this race he has done it. But as we've seen before, he was this dominant at Charlotte but didn't win the race. So with 34 laps to go, there's still a lot of racing yet to be had. But without a doubt, he is the fastest race car.
So if Martin Truex Jr. goes on to win this race, that's 5 more playoff points that put him at 28. And if you are the point leader at the end of the regular season, you get 15 more playoff points. He would have more than a race on many of the people that he's racing against when the playoffs start. He would have over 40 points in playoff points. They have definitely figured out how to do stage racing.
Yeah, have fast race cars. I mean,
Yes.
you know, that's the key. This system rewards excellence. It punishes you for not having it. And look at this, a water bottle on the racetrack. Paul Menard runs by it. The 4-car runs by it. A.J. Allmendinger high centers it. It's only one way that thing gets on the racetrack. You know, drivers looking for a caution, throwing stuff on the racetrack. I can promise you NASCAR is trying to find who threw that water bottle out.
Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones running nose to tail. We're going to go NASCAR nonstop. You're watching the Quaker State 400 from Kentucky Speedway. Next Sunday on NBCSN, it's the Monster Energy Cup Series in Loudon, New Hampshire. It will be running on the track called the Magic Mile. That race coverage begins at 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you stay tuned for the post-race show tonight with Krista, Kyle, and DJ. 2 hours of coverage. We're going to hear from a lot of drivers at the end of this one. And again, that will be on NBCSN 2 hours after this race. 2 hours of coverage. And it feels like that's how long the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. has been out front and been dominant in this race. Want to get a few updates, and we'll start with Marty.
Rick, Kyle Larson has now taken over the second position. I don't know if they're going to get up to the 78 or not. They're going to need a caution clearly to make that happen this evening. But you got to wonder if the 42 team, they've gone from the back to the front twice this evening, if they're going to look back at this one and say, man, that's one we missed out on. Speeding penalty on pit road. They didn't get through inspection and qualifying yesterday. They've done it twice, so if they get a caution, they might be able to get that 78, Kelly.
Rookie Eric Jones in that 77 says he thinks he's already learned more just halfway through this Cup season than he did in 2 years on the Xfinity side of things. He comes into this race 18th in points. He says, we've got it all mapped out. We know exactly what we need to do to get into those playoffs based on points alone. I'm certain a top 5 finish wouldn't hurt things. He's 6th right now, Marty.
Another young guy is Ryan Blaney. It's been a frustrating day for Ryan Blaney. Remember, he took on tires in the Xfinity Series race, which, yes, we ran earlier this afternoon. Came all the way up to the field, finished second to Kyle Busch. Tonight, he said his car has been struggling all evening long, trying to hang on here to the top 10, but Matt Kenseth trying to get that spot, Dave.
Daniel Suarez is the Xfinity Series champion, but he's a rookie at 25 years old in the Cup Series. Just went a lap down to the 78, that black car right there of Martin Truex Jr. Scott Grace told me today, we've had cars plenty fast to win races. The problem is at the end of the races, we haven't had it there for Daniel. Right now, so loose, he can hardly drive it.
And we talked about some young drivers looking for opportunities. Can't say enough about Darrell Wallace Jr., 23 years old. Perhaps his last opportunity. We'll see where Eric Almirola's health is. It's been documented he's going to come test this week at Charlotte to see if his back can run next week at Loudon. Inside the top 15, Kelly, that has to be a big goal for this team.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace really just saying that he was so happy to have this opportunity, trying to make the most of it, but it has been a bit of a challenge, especially said the handling of these cars when he gets into traffic, and he's really just been trying to get comfortable racing around these other Cup drivers in the race. The response, though, he said the response from fans has been great. They've all been pumped to see him in the car and continue to improve, and he hopes he'll see an opportunity again in the future if Eric Almirola is ready to go next week when we go to Loudon.
And Kelly, we were talking a little bit ago, you know, when we had the cautions, we interviewed Matt Kenseth. He finished 3rd in that stage. Restarted 12th. They took 4 tires. Never was able to get it back. He's only gotten back to 10th. And now Martin Truex is right on his rear bumper trying to put him a lap down. So when we talk about track position, restarts, strategy, all those things matter. Matt Kenseth, we thought had a shot to win the race, now is battling to stay on the lead lap.
And Jeff, he couldn't do that pit early strategy to try to be with the 22 car of Joe Logano. His crew chief, Jason Ratcliffe, told me clearly this afternoon, I need to get to lap 210 to 220 before I come down pit road to be safe toward the end of the race. And they waited till that amount of time, so they didn't get that advantage, and they just kind of lost the handle late in the race here. You heard me speak of the fact that where they were good earlier, they're no longer good.
Another organization that is going to be happy to get out of Kentucky. As you see right there, both the 78 and the 20 bypassed the 31 of Ryan Newman. They had to change an engine in practice, started in the rear of the field, but it's really just been an off day for all of RCR. You have, you know, Dillon is in 20th, Menard is in 21st, Newman is in 22nd, so definitely not the day that RCR is looking for. Remember, 2 cars qualified for the playoffs. The 3 is qualified. The 31 is qualified. So they have done that work, Rick. They have made it to the playoffs. They have earned themselves a spot, but they're going to have to find some consistency on these mile-and-a-half tracks and just some speed, Jeff, before the playoffs come.
And someone who doesn't have to find speed, they're going to have to keep their speed, is Martin Truex Jr. and his team. Listen, I love to watch side-by-side battles, tight races, but at the same time, how can you not celebrate how great these guys are doing? I mean, they're leading a race by 14 seconds. I mean, that is unbelievable. Just trying, put Matt Kenseth a lap down. I mean, I know we love side-by-side action, but, it's like watching Tiger Woods win the Open by however many strokes he won it by. What we're watching here is excellence.
And we saw it took a helicopter to show you the gap between first and second, because it's virtually half of the track.
Helicopter can't get high enough. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There it is right there.
We talk about it, Jeff, because we worked our whole career to try to do this. I mean, this was the goal.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to win some races as a crew chief, but never with a car like this. I mean, this is just a performance. And Cole Pearn seems to have everything in order. They show up fast on Friday. They qualify well. They're aggressive with their strategy. They win stage points, and they have very fast race cars. We see right there the 83 locked the tires up. I think he's trying to come to pit road, Rick.
He did make it onto pit road, and so the 83 of Ryan Sieg
Here we are. Come on.
apparently needs a little bit of fuel. So they'll put tires on it, get some Sunoco fuel, and get back out on the track. But I don't think you can say enough about the entire team. The 78 team has been unbelievable. And Martin Truex Jr., as you mentioned, has been dominant tonight. We've seen domination out of this team before. We saw it at Charlotte when he led all but 8 laps of a 600-mile race. At Charlotte, he was dominant. Now, with the addition of stage racing, it's very difficult to do that because of stages and different people getting on different strategies. We saw Kyle Busch start this race off, led most of the laps. 112 laps Kyle Busch had led, but we always knew that the dominant car has been the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And so many people have questioned, how can this team, this 2-car team now, based out of Denver, Colorado, be competitive against the rest of the field that is all located really in the southeast, in the Charlotte, North Carolina area? But they have proven race after race that they can not only compete but win and potentially dominate, like what we're seeing tonight.
And so often, Rick, those dominating performances have come on these mile-and-a-half tracks. He's led 134 laps tonight with 11 to go. Add that to the 536 he's led on mile-and-a-half tracks alone here in 2017. But when I talked to Cole Pearn about it and asked him specifically about them being so good on the mile-and-a-half tracks, he kind of laughed and rolled his eyes, and he just said, you know what, we're going to go out and win the mile track at Loudon next week just so people will shut up about us only being good on mile-and-a-halves.
I'm going to continue to bring it up. He can win at Loudon if he wants, but look at how close this was.
Yeah, wow, he is sideways. Ryan Sieg trying to get that car on pit road. Obviously didn't make the commitment line, but he was out of fuel. Right. I mean, he just had to get on pit road or he was going to run out of fuel. So he did the right thing. And something else we need to talk about is, NASCAR could have thrown the caution. We've heard the drivers complaining, saying, hey, look, don't throw a caution for a water bottle. If there's something on a racetrack that is not dangerous, don't throw it. Well, NASCAR had an opportunity. We saw the water bottle off turn 2, and they pulled the yellow flag back. They didn't throw that caution, and that's something the drivers have asked for. Ask NASCAR to only throw the cautions when they absolutely need to.
And the 83 is receiving the black flag with a white cross, means they're not going to score you anymore. Under 8 laps to go. And it's Martin Truex Jr. with a 15-second lead over Kyle Larson, and right now only 8 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, and Eric Jones, Martin Truex's teammate, he wants to get inside that top 5, past the 4 of Kevin Harvick, try to get up in there. And I think that can be, a double-edged sword at times. Obviously the 77 of Jones feels good that he's sitting in good equipment, seeing how well his teammate is up there leading laps, but at the same time, Jeff, that has to add pressure to a race car driver seeing his teammate dominate like this.
It does, but he's outrunning all the Gibbs cars too, right? And so, we see Kyle Busch running 3rd, Eric Jones running 6th, Denny Hamlin running 7th, Kenseth 10th, so Suarez is 12th. So I think Eric Jones is a rookie. I think you should feel really good about this run. And we talk about all the information going from Gibbs to Furniture Row Racing, but I have to believe there's a tremendous amount of information right now going the other way.
Right.
It's not a one-way street. It is these teams. I've talked to these teams. They share information.
both ways. It doesn't just go one way.
You look at the most stage wins by a team. Well, Furniture Row Racing, all of those stage wins have come from Martin Truex Jr. He is now leading every other organization in NASCAR as far as stage wins. That's how dominant they have been, this team has been, as far as stage racing has gone in 2017. And now under 5 laps to go.
So the vision of the car owner, Mr. Visser, to put this program together and the way he's done it. Bring a big organization. Let them help you. Remember, he had an association with Richard Childress Racing. He moved to Toyota, started working with Joe Gibbs. So he had this vision about, let's do it in Colorado, but let's just don't do it completely by ourselves. They initially tried that. It didn't work. They went to this formula. This formula obviously is working.
Yes, it has worked very well, especially tonight. 15 seconds, the gap between first and second. 4 laps, now 3 laps to go in Kentucky.
So with a 15-second lead, Jeff, when does Martin Truex Jr. start thinking about perhaps a yellow, start hearing things in his race car? Can it be distracting to not have the pressure of someone chasing you from behind?
Yes, but I think for this car and Martin, how fast they've been, that started about 100 laps ago, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it was...
He knew he had that car.
I think that everybody in that team knew they had the car to beat. Now, this race isn't over. We've seen strange things happen. The bad pit stop at the wrong time, the speeding on pit road at the wrong time, the wreck at the wrong, all those kind of things. And when you have a car that fast, first of all, you want to make sure you keep it that fast. And then when you do, you immediately start thinking, okay, what bad is going to happen?
Not many things bad have happened to the 78 team, but a caution does come out just as we're talking about it. The caution comes out before Martin Truex Jr. got to the start-finish line, and the smoke rolling out from underneath the 41.
It was obviously some sort of major fluid leak on this 41. The smoke looks like it's starting up underneath the front or a tire down.
Stuff's coming out of it too.
Well, I don't see any damage, so I don't think he had any wall contact. Oh, the smoke is now just pouring out of the 41 car. I would have to guess that is some sort of engine issue.
And flames underneath, and actually we saw flames inside of the car. Kelly.
And it was just a couple of laps ago. Kurt said just that. I think I'm blowing up, and you can see it there. It's all confirmed now as they head back to the garage.
We said it. It looked like, without a doubt, Truex Jr. and his team had dominated this race, but it wasn't over. Anything can happen. Well, that anything that can happen just happened. So now you have a decision to make, Steve. Are you going to pit or are you not going to pit? You got to have the pit stop that you need if you are going to pit. I mean, a lot of stuff can go wrong for the 78 right here.
There's only 8 cars on the lead lap, so that definitely can come into play as far as guys who are wanting to come to pit road potentially for a 2-lap shootout. And we saw the 78 stay out. Nobody was coming behind with him.
Well, nobody, but you're going to remember Larson's the second-place car. So everyone is coming to pit road except for the 78. His lead was so big, those cars hadn't even got to the pit road opening yet. So it looks to me like the only car on the racetrack will be the 78 on old tires, Marty.
Of course, everybody's going to come down pit road. Here comes Kyle Larson. Their car very good there, but obviously so far behind the 78, they couldn't make much ground. So Larson, just air pressure changes. It's going to be 2 tires here for that 42 car. Up front, Kyle Busch for those guys. Actually, Larson with the last-second call to go to 4 tires for them. Going to be 4 tires as well for Kyle Busch. The call was Cheerios. He said the car a little bit too tight for him.
Looked like a 2-tire stop for Kyle Busch because he got out quite a bit quicker.
He did left sides.
So, I mean, the only hope that the 78 has now is his car is so fast he can just, hold these guys off. The other thing is we are not at a 6-lane racetrack. So, he can play a little defense. There are 2 pretty good lanes, but, unlike, say, a California where we see them 5 and 6 wide, he doesn't have to worry about somebody being all the way up by the wall. When they restart, it's really going to come down to turns 1 and 2.
Kevin Harvick came to pit road and sped on pit road, so too fast for the 4 team. Now, we have seen the race leader choose the outside line virtually every time for the restarts, and they have been able to hold that position and get out front using the momentum on that high line coming out of turn number 2. Is it the tires that are going to determine if the 78 team and Martin Truex Jr. can try that high line with the momentum and hopefully get out in front and have 2 laps to be able to hold off everyone else that's got either 2 tires or 4 tires.
I personally believe that he has to restart where he thinks he can launch on the initial start the best from. If he needs to try to beat them to turn 1. The goal can't be to try to be side by side with somebody in turn 1. He has so many more laps on his tires, almost 50 more laps on his tires. That is a lot. I know that we've talked about tire wear not being that bad tonight, but that is a lot to be given up. So I personally, if I'm Martin Truex Jr., I'm thinking, okay, can I launch better from the inside or the outside? I need to beat them to turn 1. I do not want to be side by side with anybody when I get there.
It's been a dominating night, but it started off that the 42 was really the fastest car on the track, coming from the back to the front. And he had to do it twice because after speeding on pit road, he had to go all the way to the back and do it again.
We saw Brad Keselowski underneath the 14 of Clint Boyer. Got really loose underneath him, lost it. 48 of Jimmie Johnson involved as well.
And that wasn't the only accident we saw. Just after that, just a few laps later, we saw Casey Kane challenge the position to Trevor Bayne, get barely inside his bumper cover. They make contact, hard contact for both cars.
And we mentioned as the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. was about to get the white flag, he had been the dominant car all night long, winning stage 1, winning stage 2, and the only driver who has ever swept the stages and gone on to win where he did in Las Vegas, looking to do that until the caution came out. And now we're going into overtime for the very first time at Kentucky. It's never happened before.
You know, I know people at home sitting there talking about why didn't they pit? I mean, why? They had the fastest car. Why didn't they pit? Because sometimes when you're the leader, Steve, it's actually a disadvantage. And you said it. He had such a lead on everybody. They had plenty of time to sit there and watch and see what he was going to do. So had he pitted, some people may have stayed out. He ends up with not the lead. That very tough call, tough spot for Cole Pearn to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cole Pearn made the right decision. I don't think he could afford to pit with the fastest car that was easily beating everybody by lap time and give those other cars a chance to stay out and trap him back in, or excuse me, trap him back in traffic on new tires. I think while this may not work out, I'm going to support Cole Pearn's decision. I think when you have the best car, the dominant car, give your chance to the driver to win the race off the front row.
So we are in overtime for the first time in Kentucky, and we're looking down at the overtime line, which is almost right in the dead center of the backstretch. And again, the way overtime works, when the drivers come through to take the green, they will get the green and race to the overtime line. If the race leader gets to the overtime line and a caution has not come out, the race will then be official. So they will be able to race back until either a caution comes out or they get to the checkered flag. If a caution comes out before the race leader gets to the overtime line, they will restart and try to get another start and another green flag finish. Kelly.
Well, let's find out from the man who had to make that tough call, Cole Pearn. Obviously, you guys stay out, but some of those other fast cars come in and get fresh tires. How confident are you in your decision now?
It's, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, we're so many lap cars buffer in between. I mean, they had plenty of time to react off our call. So I imagine we come, you're going to have 2 or 3 that are going to stay out, and I don't know if you make that back up. But I think, it's going to be a lengthy caution here, so we'll let tires cool down. And, I think he was being pretty easy on him there that last run. So I think we'll be good. If we can get through 1 and 2, we'll be fine.
All right, thank you, Cole.
I love the interview. I agree with all his comments. From everything from the lengthy yellow to cool the tires to, see, he already knew 2, maybe 3 cars. You're starting about talking, starting in row 2 or 3, not sure you can get back through the field. He ran all of the scenarios through his head. Veteran crew chief. I agree with the decision. Now, it's still maybe a losing decision for the 78, but I do agree, Jeff, it's all going to come down to 1 and 2. If he gets off from turn 2 clear and can just protect the bottom of 3 and 4, that's all it's going to take.
Yeah, and Cole agrees. We've all agreed. It's all about how he launches. And right now, you see Martin Truex swerving back and forth, trying to get those tires cleaned up, make sure there's no debris on those tires, so when he accelerates, he won't spin them.
You cannot spin those rear tires, but it's so difficult. You have older tires, hotter tires than everyone else.
Let's listen into the 77 radio, teammate to Martin Truex Jr.
Good. Well, this will be interesting. Obviously, the 78 took no tires. The 18 took left sides. You're on the right sides, and then 4 behind us.
Marty.
Right in front of him, Kyle Busch. Let's talk to Adam Stevens. Your call for left side tires there. How confident are you and your man on this restart?
I'm confident in Kyle, but I don't know what the heck's going to happen here. I didn't expect everybody to take 4 tires. I really thought the 42 would stay since he'd be on the front row, but found ourselves in a good spot, but it's going to be hard to get there. It's going to be hard to stay there.
Heard talk of a vibration earlier. We saw you go around. Did you have to hit one lug on the right rear as well?
Yeah, we think we might have one missing on the right rear. I think the wheels are secure. Shouldn't be a problem, but we'll see.
All right, going to be interesting to see this restart. We all know Kyle Busch, one of the best in the business. Can he pull it off?
And you see Kyle Larson on the outside. Is he going to try to make it 4 wide? Listen, he started 40th. There's only been 4 races in Cup history where races were won from 40th or worse. So Kyle Larson's trying to do something very difficult to do.
The restart. Can Martin Truex Jr. get out in front of Kyle Busch? Into the restart zone. We're in overtime. Green flag back in the air.
Great job by Truex. He came with speed. He did not get too slow. That helped him not spin those rear tires.
He dives to the bottom of the racetrack in front of the 18 and pulling away as the 18 moves up the track to the overtime line. They get there. Kyle Larson shoots to the bottom of the track. He moves up to second. We are in overtime, sponsored by Credit One Bank.
Right, white flag. Clear by 5.
White flag in the air. One more time around as they wreck behind him. Daniel Suarez is around. Matt Kenseth is around. The 3 of Austin Dillon in the grass. The caution has come out. It has been a perfect 10 for Martin Truex Jr. His 10th career win. It will come in Kentucky.
Told you, buddy. Hell of a job.
What a race for Martin Truex Jr. That is the 3rd win in 2017 for Martin Truex Jr. And the wreck coming off of turn 4.
Darrell Wallace just way up the racetrack. Pushed the 20 out of the groove. 20 spun and all that loose debris. Nothing Suarez or Dillon could do.
They were well past that overtime line, which determines if they will restart again. Almost got to the white flag. What an amazing restart. Let's look again at this.
That was a great restart. Martin Truex Jr. had hotter tires. Look at the speed he's carrying. He did not get slow. If had he slowed down too much, that would have made it more difficult for him to get going without spinning the rear tires. Great job by Martin Truex Jr. Had the fastest race car in adverse conditions, though, with old tires, and he found a way to make it happen. I thought he was done. When everybody pitted, no way, he's done. Great recovery.
This moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. And Martin Truex Jr. giving the crowd here at Kentucky an incredible show.
Is he in there somewhere?
Fireworks going off just outside of the track. Martin Truex Jr. smoking down the rear tires with that burnout, and the crowd roars. What a dominating performance tonight. Marty.
An incredible performance down here, and I wish you could smell the tire smoke, Rick. Just an unbelievable performance from Martin Truex Jr. It takes speed, it takes execution, but I got to know, when everyone else pitted, were you thinking, I'm done?
I thought we were dead. I thought we were done. This is completely unbelievable. I'm so excited to win here. It felt like we had a shot last year and it got away from us on fuel mileage, and just wanted to win here so bad after that. So this sweet redemption. I got to say hi to Sherry back home. She didn't make it this weekend, so love you, babe. And all these awesome fans, thank you guys so much for coming out. What an awesome crowd. Hope they enjoyed it, man. That was a whole lot of fun.
When you have a dominant car like that, how worried are you, Martin, in those final 100 laps or whatever?
Worried every lap, waiting for caution, just especially at the end. You're counting them down, 30, the last 30, the last 20, the last 10, and then you get inside of 5, you're like, oh my God, there's no way there's not going to be a caution, and sure enough there was, but fortunately able to hold them off. This thing was just so stout tonight, and a good push from Larson helped us a bunch.
I know these fans are excited to see you in victory lane. We'll see you there in a second.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Rick, we don't have a fog machine down here, I can guarantee you. That's all tire smoke from that 78 car. Martin's going to try and clean it out a little bit before he hops back in. But first, that checkered flag.
Burton, you mentioned it. You compare it to the dominant performances that we've seen in the past, the clutch performances of great athletes that have gone out and done things that you just can't believe could possibly happen. At one point in time, Martin Truex Jr. had a 15-second lead on the best race car drivers in the world. And it took a restart for him to get the win, clinch this win after winning the stages. We'll see him in victory lane next. Martin Truex Jr. making that trip to victory lane. Make sure to stay with us. Post-race show coming up next. And it is 2 hours. Recap on what took place here in Kentucky. We're going to hear from a lot of drivers. And what most drivers saw tonight was a dominant performance by the 78 team and Martin Truex Jr. Heard him mention Sherry back at home. That has really been a momentum changer for not only Martin Truex Jr. but also Sherry, who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer back in 2014. Barney Visser, the team owner, had said to Martin Truex Jr., you know what? We understand this is a very trying time for you and Sherry. If you need to sit out the rest of the season, we'll let you do it. But Martin Truex Jr. and Sherry both wanted to continue to compete, and it was a source of inspiration. And now we have just seen a dominant performance by the driver of the 78. Martin Truex Jr. has made it into victory lane, and I see Chris DeVota down there as well.
Rick, Martin Truex getting out of the car. We're going to call you, get your driver out of that car. You guys just won at Kentucky. Crew Chief Cole Pern, driver Martin Truex, entire crew going crazy. Cole, stay in here with me because you guys did this one together. We're getting drenched in victory lane, as we should. I know you just talked to the fans. You said you thought when they all came in, man, we're in trouble.
I felt good about it.
Cole felt great.
He felt great. He wasn't in this thing with 50 lap tires or whatever it was, but can't say enough about him. This whole team, everybody back at Denver, everybody at Furniture Row, Denver Mattress. I mean, all of our partners. Bass Pro Shops, Wicks, Tracker Boats. Just 5-hour energy. Who'd I miss? Toyota TRD, unbelievable engine, obviously. Just got to thank all those guys in Garmin and Textron and everybody who makes who lets us do this. Barney, we got an awesome car owner. He lets us do our thing, and this guy runs one hell of a show.
Do you guys get frustrated when everyone's like, man, they're so good on the mile and a half? This wasn't just a win. Was this a statement?
I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be a statement if we go to win Loudon next week and shut them up about the mile and a half thing. So hopefully we're holding some lobster next week, but we'll enjoy this one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It was awesome. Can't leave out Auto Owners Insurance. We won with them this year, but I think this is the first win with Furniture Row in the car this year. So thanks to everybody in Denver, all those folks, and all the fans. They were awesome up there, screaming and yelling, and I could definitely feel their energy. So most importantly, hi to Sherry again. She's back home. Couldn't make it this weekend. We love you, babe, and can't wait to see you again at the racetrack.
And really, the fact that you just talked about, you guys have just been so dominant. I mean, you guys are not just winning races. You're winning stages. You're accumulating all these playoff points. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. You talked about the energy. The energy is right now all around the 78.
Yeah, we're a fun bunch. We work really hard and everybody enjoy it. And I know everybody in the shop's probably yelling and screaming at the TV right now, and it takes everybody, So we're real fortunate. It's like a family, and then, when you can win with family, it makes it that much more special.
I know Sparta, Kentucky is a little bit of a ways from Denver, Colorado, but I have a feeling they're going to hear you guys partying tonight. Congratulations, Martin Truex, Cole Pern, and the entire 78 team.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, they brought it up. The mile and a half tracks and the domination as Colford about tackles Martin Truex Jr. So far, 3 wins in the 2017 season. And you look, they lead all drivers in each category. Top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes, laps led, average finish. Mile and a halves have been what they have been able to, I mean, that's the nucleus of this team. They have done so well there, and then they have branched out from that. What a performance, though, by Martin Truex Jr. Let's go to Dave.
Second for Kyle Larson. 4 tires there at the end. How much more did you need to get to 78? He was pretty stout today.
Yeah, I don't know what we could have done to beat him. He was obviously extremely fast. He had a huge lead there, so it would have been fun to get to race him. But because I felt like I had the second best car today, and would have been interesting to get a restart with him earlier. With get the hang with him that last run there, and but we'll bring the Target Chevy home second after not being able to qualify and having to start last in the race, and then having my speeding penalty there. Guess I was just a little too fast leaving my stall and got a penalty, so got to clean that stuff up. So mad at myself that I made that mistake. Don't really know if it affected the outcome, but you never know.
Back to the front almost twice today.
Chase Elliott will come away with a 3rd place finish. Chase, you came in, got some fresh tires. Take me through that final shootout of overtime.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I thought we got 2 to go there, and I thought for sure we were going to go to the end. But really proud of our Napa Chevy team tonight. I felt like we just executed the night well, and we had really good pit stops and made the most of a good car. We weren't perfect, but we weren't as good as Martin or Kyle, I didn't think, but made the most of what we had, I think, and that's a step in the right direction. So let's keep putting some top 5s together, and we'll see what we can do.
You had put together a string of top 10s before Daytona. What does it say about this team to bounce back in this fashion?
Yeah, I feel like we've been solid. We haven't been phenomenal. We haven't been perfect, but I feel like we've been really solid, and those are the kind of days you have to have. Our pit stops have been incredible over the past 3 or 4 weeks. We've gained, if not maintained, on pit road, and that's huge. That's what we have to do. Our race strategy has been nice, and Alan deserves a lot of credit, and Tom, Gray, and Dustin, and Matt, and all the guys on the box for that. So I'm looking forward to getting on down the road, getting these next few weeks, and just trying to get a little better.
Good points tonight for Chase Elliott.
7th for Jamie McMurray tonight. Let's take the 78 out of the picture for the moment. For the rest of the field there, where were you lacking just a little bit?
Yeah, we had a really good car. We got behind on the last pit stop. We had a bad pit stop at the start of the last segment, and that was the start of the longest run. And I don't know why. It seemed like it was harder to pass at the start of that last segment, and we ran single file forever. But towards the end, we didn't really fall off as much as other guys did, and had a really good car. I mean, I thought we had maybe a second, third place car. We just lost a little bit of track position there, and it was hard to get it back.
It seemed like you felt like you had a car from the start. There was that early pass down to the apron, bouncing across there, so you kind of knew you had it.
Well, our car was really good at the start of a run, and I felt like at the beginning of the race we would fall off a little bit more, but I got a huge run, and look, you race 50 laps past 3 cars. When you can get 2 in one straightaway, you take that opportunity when it's there, and the 11 was pretty frustrated with me, but it's hard to pass, so you got to pass when you can.
Jamie Mcmurray, another solid top 10 tonight.
Denny Hamlin brings the 11 car home in 4th. Denny, Toyota's up front. You guys couldn't quite maintain at the front of the field. What more did you need in the 11 car?
You know, a little bit of speed here and there. I thought we really actually had a fast car, but every time we went up front, we were at a tire disadvantage. A lot of it came from me having a speeding penalty early, only my second of the year, but nonetheless, it's at a racetrack that's very, very difficult to pass on. So we did a great job of rebounding. The whole FedEx Camry team did a great job, no mistakes, and had a good top 5.
To see you and your teammates running up strong, does that do something for JGR as a whole? Do you feel like you guys are chipping closer and closer to that win?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting closer for sure. You know, I think that, you know, there's some things that we're doing that we're obviously improving, and I think that we're gaining on the field, but I definitely don't think we're all the way there yet, but we are solidly a contender week in, week out now. We just got to get a win.
Thank you, Denny.
Thank you.
After the 18th race of 2017, take a look at the playoff standings.
As you see, all the drivers on the left-hand side highlighted in yellow, they have wins. Martin Truex Jr. added another one to the list. That playoff point total grows to 28, Jeff. Other drivers are going to have to take note of that have a win. But on the right side of the screen, I don't think these drivers can worry about playoff points yet. They need to worry about getting in the playoffs. Even Kyle Busch at plus 138. While he must feel better as we get close to Richmond, there are no guarantees.
There are no guarantees, but if you're going to have someone win a race, for all the people on the right side of the board, you want someone that's already won a race to win it. So that doesn't move them out. That makes their point situation not that much more difficult. So you see Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano, only 7 points separating them. They're still racing for points. Had say Kyle Busch won, that would have made their job much more difficult. So it's going to boil down. When we go to Richmond, we're going to have a tight point battle. We're also going to have the opportunity where if you win, you move along. So this is building to an exciting Richmond race, the last race before the playoffs.
Cole Pearn on the morning of the 4th of July tweeted, "Worked on the 4th of July, always getting better." We have 2 more hours of coverage from Kentucky Speedway. It will be Chris Devoda, Kyle, and DJ, and then NASCAR Victory Lap follows. That's now.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted,